Councillor Fascio, can you hear me? And are you able just to do a quick audio check yourself before we start the
Can you
meeting?
hear me?
I can hear you fine. Thank you. I'll call this meeting to order. It's Monday, September 8th, 2025. It's 5:30 p.m. It's a regular council meeting of the Harrison Hot Springs Village Council. I'd like to acknowledge that our meeting tonight takes place on the traditional territory of Stahelis. There is a public hearing tonight, and I will start that by calling this public hearing to order. This is a public hearing regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 1228, 2025, and this public hearing takes place on Monday, September 9th at 5:30 p.m. in Memorial Hall, 290 Esplanade Avenue. This public hearing is being convened in accordance with the Local Government Act in order to hear public comments on the Village of Harrison Hot Springs zoning amendment bylaw number 1228, 2025. The site that is the subject of this bylaw has a civic address of 856 Hot Springs Road. In accordance with the legislation in the Village's public notice bylaw number 1200, 2024, the time, the place, and the details of this public hearing and the proposed bylaw were advertised via direct mail out and on the Village's website and public notice posting boards starting August 29th, 2025. An information package on the proposed bylaw has been available on the Village's website and at the Village office for public review since that time. All persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw must be afforded a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained by the bylaw. That is the subject of this hearing. Therefore, any person attending who believes their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw may be heard on the matters contained in the bylaw. Please restrict your remarks to matters of direct consequence to the proposed bylaw. This hearing is not a forum in which elected officials debate among themselves or with proponents or opponents. Council may ask questions for clarification of a speaker's point. Public hearings are subject to the rules of natural justice and procedural fairness. Therefore, to ensure the applicant is given a fair hearing, Council must enter into this hearing with an open mind, amenable to persuasion. At this time, I ask Council to please declare any conflicts of interest if they exist. Seeing none, we'll move on. After this public hearing has concluded, the Council may, without further notice, give whatever effect they believe appropriate to the representations made at this hearing. The bylaw will be presented to Council for further consideration at the next appropriate Council meeting. The planning consultant will now introduce zoning amendment bylaw number 1228, 2025, as read a second time at the regular council meeting of July 14th, 2025. Our planning consultant, Mr. Cossey, is here. Mr. Cossey, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas the Mayor and Council has deemed it advisable to amend the Village of Harrison Hot Springs zoning bylaw number 1115, 2017, the zoning bylaw for the Village of Harrison Hot Springs as adopted May 7th, 2018. Now therefore an open meeting assembled, the Mayor and Council of the Village of Harrison Hot Springs enacts as follows. Under the citation, this bylaw may be cited for all purposes as the Village of Harrison Hot Springs zoning amendment bylaw 1228, 2025. For the map amendment, that Schedule A, the zoning map for the Village of Harrison Hot Springs bylaw number 1115, 2017, be amended by rezoning the lands legally described as Lot 5, Section 12, Township 4, Range 29, west of the 6th Meridian, New Westminster District Plan 60104, PID 002-353-989, outlined in red and crosshatched in Schedule 1 of this bylaw, from Residential 2 Duplex R2 Zone to Neighborhood Commercial C2 and that the map appended hereto designated as Schedule 1 showing such amendments is an integral part of this bylaw. That is the bylaw, Your Worship. Or Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. The developer is now invited to make a presentation regarding the zoning amendment bylaw.
Okay, good evening. Respect council members and dear neighbors. My name is Jamie. You can also call me. No problem. Okay, you can just call me James. He's my friend and pastor.
Yes, come for translation for him.
Yeah, Miss Wang, yeah, he who kindly be here today to help me to as a translator. Okay, you just we need his stand by me to back up. Yeah. Okay, I'm owner of the property of 856 Hot Spring Road. Okay, we go next picture. And we try start to presentation. Yeah. This picture you can see clearly. See the location of our property. Yeah, just like this. The reason we moved this place March this year, yeah. Why we move here? The reason we'll go back to last summer. Last summer when my wife also here, my wife and me first time to visit this here. Here is Harrison Hot Spring. We was immediately touched by the stunning natural beauty, the peace, the quiet, the friendly people, and also multicultural spirit here. Actually, before we come here, we traveled widely. We traveled in China, we go to Europe, go to Malaysia, go to Japan, and went to United States. But we never found the place we were dreaming of. Then, when we come here, Harrison Hot Spring, we both, my wife and me, feel this is it. This is where we want to spend the rest of our life. I'm 60 years, but my rest of life, I want to stay here. To celebrate this gift from God, I moved here. We held a housewarming party. Many of our friends come, and they were amazed by the beauty of this town. My pastor also fell in love with this place. On July 20th, just at here, the beautiful Harrison Lake, my wife was baptized. That day, over 40 people come here to witness the special day. This was true on the God's place. We really feel this land is a gift from God, and we hope to share it with more people, and also to contribute something that add value and beauty to this place. This is why we began to plan. Then we went to the village office to ask the application, ask the permission. The lovely Vivian, maybe she didn't come here today. The lovely Vivian explained to us that the property is zoned R2. That means only residential use. So currently we can't do Airbnb. We can't open a shop or selling anything. The only way is to apply for rezoning. That is why we are here today. Actually, our plan is very simple. To use our current house to run a small Airbnb with 4 or 5 guest rooms. To build a small shop in front of a garden to offer traditional Chinese snack and crafts. To build a small tea room by the creek in the backyard, where we can share Chinese tea culture and the game of Go. This is we first time be here, my wife baptized. This is a place, this is our property right now. It's only residential, no Airbnb, no small shop, something. So our plan just the small Airbnb and a small shop and the tea house. Yeah. This land, here is the layout plan. If we are rezoning approved, we can build like this. We can see our red roof house just inside, just the middle up. And the parking area already there. And the small shop will be in the front garden behind the tree wall, where visitors can taste Chinese snacks and see handcrafts. A tea house will be in the back near the creek. I hope to host the Go games with friends while enjoy Kung Fu tea. Around the house, we will also build a lavender garden, yeah. This is my wife's dream. And also, you can see another garden is a vegetable garden. The vegetable garden is the shape of a leaf, shape of leaf, the orange. This is my dream. And also because my wife's last name in Chinese means leaf. In shortly, the plan has 3 parts. 1 small Airbnb, 1 small shop with Chinese snack, not only for tourism, but also for our lovely neighbors. A third is a culture sharing place. Chinese tea, go game, handcrafts, maybe even pottery, something. We believe this plan will not only help support our family, but also bring benefit to our community. At first, it will add cultural diversity. In our village, we already see Vietnamese food, Mexican food, Japanese food, and many local foods. But so far, I didn't find Chinese food. It will give visitors more choice for food and lodging, which helps tourism and the local economy. During the busy season, we will provide 1 or 2 part-time jobs also. And it will greatly improve the landscape of the property. Once it is completed, we even hope to join the Game of Week competition. Of course, I understand some neighbor may worry, will this bring too much traffic or noise? But as you can see from our design, this is a very small project. The Airbnb just use the current house, not build a new house. Only 4 or 5 guest rooms. And the shop is very small. Of course, so the increase in traffic will be very limited. And we already have enough parking inside the property, so no parking problem. The design has also been reviewed and approved by the traffic department. This is Airbnb. This is Chinese food. The dumpling, the steamed bone, and spring roll, and the slow ferry, and the sugar cold fruit, something like this. Just some small, not big restaurant, just some snacks. This is a tea room we are going to do. Okay. Our promise are clear. We will follow all government regulations. We will maintain high standard of safety and hygiene. We will respect the environment and do our best to bring positive value to the community. The conclusion, we are asking for the rezoning of 856 Hot Spring Road from R2 to C2. Our plan is only a small Airbnb, a small shop, and a tea room. Yeah. Okay. What we want to do is share our culture, support the tourism, enrich our community, and add beauty to our neighborhood. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, James, for that presentation.
So we stand here, just stand here. Okay, wait.
The village has received 3 written submissions prior to the meeting. They are in the package at the back of the hall on a table if anyone wants to read the written submissions. I would now like to invite the public to speak and present comments. In the interest of hearing all persons within a reasonable time frame, each person shall have 4 minutes. Further opportunity will be afforded for persons to speak a second or a third time once all persons have had an opportunity to speak. I, as chair, have the authority to stop any speaker who is not commenting on the facts pertinent to this bylaw. Members of the public who are attending in person who wish to speak, please clearly state your name and address for the record and proceed with your comments. Are there any comments from the floor this evening? Please come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John James Allen. My address is 398 Hot Springs Road. I think that council should seriously consider whether it is in the best interests of the community to rezone this piece of land in the middle of a residential area to commercial. That flies in the face of all good planning practices. The purpose of planning is to create zones and confine compatible uses within those zones. And by creating these zones and limiting the uses to those zones, the purpose of planning in general is to avoid conflict. If you put a commercial zone in the middle of a residential zone, that creates the conflict. This practice is roundly denounced and properly denounced throughout every other municipality in BC as spot zoning. By inserting an incongruous use like commercial into a residential neighborhood, you negatively affect the quiet enjoyment and the value of the properties of the neighbors on both sides and for maybe a block in each direction. It is not a positive thing to do. Hot Springs Road is a particular case because we have long held in planning discussions in Harrison that we want to avoid the recreation of a Kingsway type strip with commercial businesses on both sides of the road coming in. And the planning that we are supposed to be carrying out in Harrison should mitigate towards the exclusion of spot zoning like this in the middle of a residential zone. Mr. Zhu must be congratulated on his vision. He wants to create something that's obviously dear to him and could in fact be an addition to the cultural scene in Harrison Hot Springs. But as a tourism attraction facility, it needs to be here in the core area where we have commercial zoning and we have plenty of older houses that need to be redeveloped. And you would thereby give people an opportunity to visit his business and enjoy the Chinese cultural experience that he prefers to present. By taking this property or this business away from the core area and putting it a half-mile down Hot Springs Road, I think that's a terribly bad idea. Hot Springs Road needs to be preserved as an attractive entrance to the village. It does not need more businesses and signs and traffic and left turns and traffic accidents on the way into our community. And that's what will happen if 856 Hot Springs Road becomes C2 commercial. I know Mr. Crump from Highways has written and said he doesn't have a problem with the access to this property, but he doesn't live here. I live here and I see the accidents, and this is an accident black spot. The entrance to Ramona Crescent, which leads to the 54 homes in Angus Estates, is in complete violation of the sight lines prescribed in our own zoning bylaw. And as a result of the village's negligence in not enforcing that bylaw, people coming in and out of Ramona Crescent cannot see the emerging traffic on Hot Springs Road, and the traffic on Hot Springs Road cannot see Ramona Crescent, the entrance. So I think that those of us who have seen the accidents in that spot know better than Mr. Crump, and we don't need another business attracting traffic to turn left off Hot Springs Road in that vicinity. It's simply compounding an existing problem. The 20-foot entrance that is proposed is completely inadequate for one vehicle going in plus one vehicle coming out. Those of us who use the entrance to the credit union parking lot in Agassiz struggle every day with that narrow entrance. And that is
Mr. Allen, could I
20
ask
feet.
you, you've spoken for 5 minutes, and there's several other commenters who wish to speak this evening. Could I ask you to summarize your remarks in the next minute, please?
Well, what I'll say, Mr. Mayor, is that I will sit down and will continue after the others have spoken. I'd just like to point out that the 3 letters that you referred to are actually letters in opposition to this rezoning. They're not just 3 letters, they are 3 letters in opposition, and I think they should be read into the record, and that you should do that as chairman of the meeting. Thank you.
Next person, please approach the podium.
Okay. Susan Galveo, 259 Miami River Drive. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. Thank you all for hearing me this evening, and I'm here to speak on the request for the rezoning of 856 Hot Springs Road from an R2 to a C2 zoning. It's important to look at these requests and then ask the questions, the what, who, where, why, and hows when it comes to the development of the village. This measurement can be applied to all proposed developments. The what is being proposed, the who does it benefit, where is it the best place, how does it maximize benefit to our village? These questions act as a sort of litmus test of suitability. It is my opinion that this proposed zoning amendment does not pass the test of suitability. It does not fit into our OCP, it does not fit into a cohesive village design the way the current R2 zoning does. I've seen a lot of speculative real estate purchasing happening here in the village for quite some time now, and there's really nothing wrong with that if it truly is used to enhance the village and the life of the villagers. So far, it has been working very well for developers. Since 2016, we've had an unprecedented growth of over 33% in population compared to the provincial average of 7.5. So let that sink in for a moment. That is over a 400% difference between the province numbers and our community. It's enormous. I'm not anti-growth or anti-business and profit. We all like to make money. But our village needs to grow and succeed based on a firm and concrete vision of how we want our village to look and feel, and what amenities we want and where we want them. Developers are always there. There is no shortage of that. We need to make sure they are developing what we want, not just what they want. What they want is to maximize their profits, pure and simple. Again, it is my opinion that this zoning amendment is not what the village needs at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any comments from anyone participating remotely? Tyson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have Wendy that has her hand up on Zoom. Wendy, I think you can ask your question now. She is no longer asking a question, it seems.
There's no further questions from anyone participating remotely. Anyone else from the gallery here this evening? Please proceed.
Hi, my name's Corey Carlson, and I live at 542 Echo Avenue. I have a couple questions. I see with the diagrams there's 6 parking spaces, and if they're renting out 5 rooms, which they're saying bed and breakfast, but then he said Airbnb. So are they actually going to be on site? And that is not enough parking for the Airbnb plus a store plus a tea house. You're looking at a lot of traffic coming onto that property. So that's my questions, and I'm kind of opposed to that whole development because we haven't heard from the neighbors either. You know, it's going to affect their privacy and their quality of life too. Maybe he can answer, I don't know.
Thank you for your questions. The proponent, James, are you able to answer the questions about parking and the difference between the Airbnb and the short-term rentals?
I'd also like to know if they're going to be living on site.
If there's a residence on site. Is the proponent able to answer those questions this evening?
Actually, yeah, I will answer. Our property, there's 6 rooms, and me and my wife also live in this area. Yeah, so
Same property.
yeah, so it's same property. So we only for maximum is 5 room for guests. So and the shop is very small. Most provide the Chinese legs for our guests, not for. Of course, other people can use that, but most of it is just for our guests. So we think it's 6 rooms is good enough. If we really need to get more place to parking, we still have design, change design, maybe get 1 or 2 more. Yeah.
Thank you for answering that question. Mr. Cossey, something to add?
Yes, Your Worship. We're not at that point where we will have the final requirements for the parking. That will be part of the process, and that will be in the final report that goes in front of council. It says that they need X number of parking stalls, and if they're going to be living on site as a host, that will all be determined as we go through this process. So technically at this point, we can't answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. Another question from the gallery, from the floor. Please proceed.
Good evening. Wolfgang Thornton, 336 Chestnut Avenue. Unfortunately, this gentleman would like to put a tea house on Harrison Hot Springs Road. If my memory serves me right, and it usually does, there has just recently been a tea house opened in Harrison Hot Springs. Unfortunately, another problem with this location is that it is an industrial zoning, and that really doesn't belong in a residential area. I encouraged the gentleman to open a tea house somewhere else in Harrison, but not in the residential area, as it does disrupt people's lives. And it is also an advancement of commercial zoning into a residential area, which is a total negative in anybody's belief. Anyway, I hope you much luck. I do encourage you to apply for a different location in Harrison And thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please proceed.
I'll be brief. Teresa Omelis, 641 Schooner Place. I also have concerns about this proposed development in terms of parking, traffic, and overall ease of egress and entrance into the village. As we are all aware, we are currently experiencing upgrades on McCombs as well as Hot Springs Road. And I don't know about anyone else in the village, but it's not necessarily enjoyable sitting there waiting for traffic construction in the heat for 15, 20 minutes. I understand that's only a temporary situation. However, we have to think long-term. We have essentially one road in and one road out. I'm not against these neighbors opening their shop. I don't think it's in the right location. What I would like to see happen is incentives being encouraged to utilize already existing retail spaces that are sitting empty in Harrison Hot Springs. I think that would be a much better use of resources and encouraging further, what's the word I'm looking for? Diversification of retail spaces. And I believe it will fit in nicely with the upgraded streetscaping plan that's proposed for West Lillooet Avenue. So there's going to be more business as a result of that beautification project. And I think we can extend it further on and try and pull in some other retail spaces on the other side of Lillooet that are sitting open. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please proceed.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Moore, and I live at 349 Walnut Avenue. I'm just wondering what happens if this doesn't work out for them. The tea shop closes, everything goes down, but it's still commercial. Do they have now a right to go and start building a bigger building, 2, 3, 4 stories? Where does that stop? It's like many people have said, there's lots of commercial property around that's ready for rent. Before you buy here, why not, you see it's residential, don't assume that you're just going to flip it over into commercial. We don't know that this is going to work out. We have one tea house that's suffering right now. They're proposing another tea house, Airbnb. They're going to have 4 or 5 places in the Airbnb, but only 6 parking stops, but they're going to be living on it. Plus, we have people attending the tea house and all the good food, plus coming and parking to go to the shop at the front. So all these people are parking where? On the boulevard, in front of other people's homes? It doesn't sound right to me. So my concern is if this doesn't work out, what goes there in its place? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to... Might I just, I'll get back to that. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken in the gallery who wishes to speak, or anyone on Zoom? Please proceed.
Good evening. My name is Freddie Marks. I live on 875 Hot Springs Road, so pretty much close to that proposed property. Most of the neighbors are not in a big favor for this rezoning. I personally brought up my concerns on another council meeting a few weeks ago. I just want to remind or recall several years ago with another council, when I was on the APC as chair or as member, we did rezone the village of Harrison on a volunteer basis at that time, existing commercial properties on that end of Harrison Hot Springs Road. With the exemption of one property, what is used as a parking spot for a local developer, I believe, or a local builder, it's a better word, all the property owners in that area went for that proposal. Mr. Corsi maybe will recall when that happened. I think it was at one of his first occasions here. So this spot zoning will turn this whole thing around. We also had, several years ago, a bylaw introduced that in residential areas, no Airbnbs will be allowed. This zoning bylaw change, or this zoning change, will turn this whole proposal around. Now we're going and rezone a residential property to a commercial zoning in order to do there an Airbnb. And on the other point, we all know when this rezoning will go through with council, on the end, what will be built here will be different than what we hear here tonight. We have seen it on many, many locations in Harrison, that in the planning process, everything gets changed. That's all what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Seeing no one else wanting to speak for a first time, I will call for a second time. Is there anyone else attending in person who would like to provide a comment or submission to council regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 1228, 2025? Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you clarify how much time I have available on my second opportunity?
4 minutes.
1 minute.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Corey has raised an issue that I was about to raise, but I'll restate it. The 4 or 5 spaces which are shown on the plan are thoroughly inadequate for the 5 B&B units, the tea shop, and the retail shop, plus hopefully a residence for the owner, caretaker of the property. So that needs to be revisited, but one of the problems is that the report from the planner says that there's 1.34 acres of land available here. That's not actually true. These properties exist along Hot Springs Road, and they go in a little bit of distance at street level, and then they go up into a cliff. The property to the south of this has 3 homes on the front, and the area behind is a park. It's there because at the time that developer, I think it was Mr. Clark, Councillor Clark, wanted to subdivide, the subdivision rules didn't allow him to do so because he had to have more than 10% of his perimeter on the highway. The solution we came up with was that we invited Mr. Clark to donate the back of the property, the hillside, to the village as future parkland, which he did. And we did that because we needed then, and we still need today, a reservoir in the south part of Harrison Hot Springs for our domestic water supply. We have the back of the Clark property. Perhaps through negotiation with Mr. Zhu, we can get the unused cliff behind his property dedicated to the village as parkland and possibly expanded reservoir site. The other thing that council needs to consider in this application is the fact that at the base of that cliff is a drainage ditch that drains all the water from South Harrison right north along the toe of that cliff to the Miami River. And the village needs to secure the easements necessary to maintain that ditch and develop it. And that can be done at this stage, not later. And it needs to be done as part of the infrastructure of the village, because that water, if you don't have that ditch maintained, flows across the property onto Hot Springs Road, causing the problems which we had last winter. I'd also like to restate that I think that the quote within the planner's report, which seems to say that the OCP supports this rezoning application, I think that's very misleading. If you read the OCP paragraph in context, it says very clearly that there is a need in the south part of the village for a retail service commercial area to serve the needs of the residents. And we're talking about a gas station, a convenience store, a hairdresser, you know, hardware shop, things like that, that we, the residents, can benefit from. This in no way meets any of those objectives in the OCP. This is strictly a tourist type business, and it's of little or no interest or value to those of us who live here, because we're not going to be going there to enjoy Chinese culture, maybe a few of us. So I think that needs to be corrected, that the quote from the OCP is taken completely out of context. So overall, Mr. Mayor, I think that this is a bad idea. If Mr. Zhu wants to open a business in Harrison, he should do the right thing, buy commercial property that's already zoned for his business, instead of buying cheap residential property and benefiting by the upzoning to commercial uses. For those of us who have invested in commercial zoned land in the village, it's very unfair to us when you turn around and say to somebody else, well, you don't have to buy commercial land, you can just buy residential, much cheaper, and we'll just rezone it for you. That's a breach of trust that you have made with us.
Mr. Allen, I need to interrupt you. You've spoken again for 5 minutes. I'm wondering if you could summarize your remarks in the next minute, please.
Yes, well, I can summarize my remarks quite easily. I think it's a bad idea, it's spot zoning, it's bad planning, and you should not approve it. Mr. Zhu is very welcome in the village. There's lots and lots of commercial land within 2 blocks of where we're standing, and if he wants to come into Harrison and do business, he should come in through the front door, buy commercial property that's suitably zoned, and build his business on the land that we have said is suitable for that use. We have said now for the last 60 years that 856 Hot Springs Road is residential, not commercial. Why should we change it now? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, second call from the people in the gallery? Could you please come to the microphone so everyone can hear you? Thank you very much.
About all that's going on in that property is this tea house thing and the food that they're saying is snacks, and when you look at it, it looks like a restaurant. So you need a commercial kitchen. So is that in the plans for this tea house of how big it's going to be if you're putting a commercial kitchen in it? And then with the commercial kitchen, there's the exhaust. Wouldn't be pleasant for the neighbors, I don't think. That's my other concern. Thanks.
Thank you for that comment. Are there any comments from anyone participating remotely on Zoom tonight? Second call from Zoom. So for a third and final time, is there anyone else attending in person who would like to provide a comment or submission to Council regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 1228, 2025? Please proceed.
Hi, it's Sonia again. I'm just wondering, if this doesn't work, what are the next steps for them to build something else there? Like, what do they have to do? They own it, it's commercial. Of course, they would have to put a plan forward, but who's to say what it's going to be? The parking is one thing for sure, we know that. Because if you've got someone living there and attending all these things, you've got an industrial kitchen going in with the fans and the smells going everywhere, the oil, the smells. So I'm just wondering, if this doesn't work out, and I like your comment about them coming in through the back door rather than the front. Buying residential because it's cheaper, it's just, and he's a developer, so he's gonna say whatever he wants to say to get this through, and then he's gonna put up something totally different. We all know that. So what stops him from doing that?
Yes, Your Worship. There's, from the previous presentation, there was a reference to the parkland dedication, and the only time you can take parkland dedication is when you're doing a subdivision, not at the rezoning stage. And if council wishes, through this process as a part of condition, if we get that far, that landlocked park that's in the back there, you can request an easement or a statutory right-of-way so you can have access to that park. There's already an industrial catering kitchen that's down at the end of Hot Springs Road, and I'm not aware of any complaints at this particular point in time. And also, I'm not aware of a restaurant being a full-scale industrial catering restaurant happening on the property. All I'm aware of at this particular point in time is a tea house. That's all that's on the application.
Thank you, Mr. Kasi. For a third and final time, are there any, yes, the proponent, if you'd like to respond to the last comment, please come to the podium.
Thank you very much. Actually, I retired already. We come here, the only reason I love here, we want to live here for rest of our life. So we want to do something, just want to make some value to this community. We want to do something. Let me be the positive part of the community. That's all I want to do.
Not just eating and drinking.
Yeah.
Just try to contribute.
Yeah, the shop, actually, absolutely no restaurant. Just a very small shop, sell something we made use weekend, just like this. So it's very easy, it's very small, not build new building, not build a lot of things. Actually, we want to make my landscape more beautiful. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to say. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fascio, did I see a hand go up? Did you have a question?
No, I'm not. I don't have questions, Your Worship. We're just here to listen and observe. It's just that with the gentleman turning, I couldn't hear. He was speaking more to the audience than to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. For a third and final time, are there any comments from anyone participating remotely on Zoom? I see none on Zoom. Third call from the floor, continuing. Please proceed, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm delighted at the number of people who've shown up to take an interest in Harrison land use here tonight. One of the things that I noticed about the report is that this application has not been referred to our advisory planning commission. And I think that's an important oversight, because those people have volunteered to spend the time looking into such applications and giving council the wisdom of their advice. For you to ignore them on something that is so high profile, I think is a bit of a slap in the face to the APC, as if to say they're not capable of reviewing this and therefore council is not referring it to them. I hope this is an oversight on somebody's part and that you will in fact now refer this to the APC so that those people can get a chance to review the application and deal with it. I also have a suggestion to deal with the concern about the C2 zoning. When you rezone this property, you have lost control of what happens to it, because the owner, either Mr. Zhu or the person he sells it to, will walk into the village office and say, I've just bought this property, it's zone C2, that allows me to build a motel or a restaurant or any of the other uses specified in the C2 zone. And we, the village, will have lost control of that property. You can, however, instead of zoning it to C2, zone it to a CD zone, comprehensive development. And within that CD zone, number 5, 6, 7, whatever number you designate, you can say, this property is being rezoned to CD 23, which limits the use to a tea house, a gift shop, and 4 bed and breakfast or Airbnb units. By doing that, you will have satisfied Mr. Zhu and given him the land uses that he wants, but you will have protected the neighborhood from the property being sold on and used for any of the multiple permitted uses that are currently in our C2 bylaw. So I'm making this as a suggestion to council to consider that if you want to confirm that that is in fact going to be what is built and is a long-term use of the property, you have the ability to do that by using comprehensive development zoning. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I saw someone else standing in the gallery. Did that person want to make a comment before we close? Thank you.
Okay, I'm Tina Guthrie, and I live on 595 Lillooet Avenue, Herons Cove. I just wanted to clarify that if we accept this rezoning, that this would become a business and sets a precedence for anybody else along that Harrison Road that may buy property and say, well, it happened once, I'm just going to reapply and maybe they'll do it again for me. That's just a minor little point. But my other query was, if this bylaw is rezoned and we have this business plan going forward, do the people putting forth this plan realize that they must get a license if they are serving food and get their WorkSafe accounts taken care of? And if they are hiring other employees to help them, then they also would need to go through WorkSafe to make sure that their employees are covered. Just 2 little points I was thinking of as I sat there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Seeing no more comments, the public hearing for zoning amendment bylaw number 1228, 2025 is hereby closed. Council will now resume its regular meeting. Item 4 on our agenda is introduction of late items. Are there any late items to introduce tonight? Seeing none, I'll move to item 5 on the agenda, approval of our agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by, I saw Councillor Jackson. Any discussion? Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Are there any declarations of a conflict of interest pertaining to tonight's agenda? I don't see any, so we'll move to item 7, on the agenda, which is adoption of council minutes. Could I have a motion that the regular council meeting minutes of August 11th, 2025 be adopted?
So moved, Mayor Tallon.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Item 8, business arising from the minutes. Is there any business tonight arising from the minutes? Seeing none, I'll move to item 9, which is delegations and petitions. A on our agenda is Daniel Maldoff, hydrotechnical engineer with Northwest Hydraulic Consultants regarding the dike upgrade. Mr. Maldoff.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks for having me here tonight. I will just share my screen if you'll bear with me. Okay. That should work. So I'm here tonight to provide an update on the waterfront flood mitigation project and just an overview of who we are. Our team working on this project, we have Northwest Hydraulic Consultants, who is the prime consultant on this project. Our area of expertise is hydrotechnical engineering, and we are working with Space to Place, who is doing landscape architecture, Thurber Engineering, who is the geotechnical engineer, and we have Legacy Environmental on environmental permitting. Overview for our presentation tonight. We'll just do a brief project overview, a summary of previous council direction and current objectives for our work, an overview of potential concepts for dike upgrades and solutions, and some options for next steps following this meeting for project direction. So an overview of the project. The waterfront flood mitigation upgrades include two main components. There is the wastewater treatment plant access road and shoreline, which are denoted as Zone 1 and Zone 2 in pink on this map. That covers a length of shoreline of about 0.6 kilometers, and the upgrades there are focused on maintaining access to the wastewater treatment plant during the design flood and to protect this critical infrastructure from erosion and flood hazard. And then the other main piece of this project is upgrades to the waterfront dike, which is denoted as zones 3, 4, 5, and 6, the yellow line. It covers a length of about 1.5 kilometers. And for that, the concepts for those upgrades are currently under discussion. So just talking more about what our goals are for the dike upgrades. The main concern with the existing dike is the crest level. This was previously identified as far back as the 90s. At that point, the need for increased height for the dike was identified. And in 2015, the province did an assessment of dikes across the Lower Mainland and gave the crest elevation a score of 2 out of 4, stating that the crest height does not meet minimum requirements for the design flood profile. And also in that study, there was limited geotechnical data available. And as part of the current project, there have been further investigations and analysis, and there have been recommendations to upgrade the existing dike foundations to mitigate against seepage-related failure. So then just reviewing the tasks that we are working on for this project. So zones 1 and 2, the wastewater treatment plant road and shoreline, as I said before, the focus is on improving resistance to erosion along the lake shore, and also to raise the elevation to maintain access during a flood, and to protect the infrastructure during that design flood event. And then for the waterfront dike upgrades, the project is to raise the dike crest to an elevation of 15.1 meters, which is 1.2 meters higher than the current dike crest elevation. And as I discussed before, there are opportunities to improve the integrity of the existing dike. At the May 5th regular council meeting, there was a motion passed providing direction for next steps, and it's summarized here. At that meeting, it was instructed to proceed with the dike project based on a dike height of 15.1 meters, which we have covered at previous council meetings, and to pursue a combination of fixed and deployable flood protection structures with a focus on maintaining views of Harrison Lake along the waterfront and along Esplanade Avenue. This was a focus that was conveyed to us by residents, by business owners, just the importance of preserving that public space along the waterfront. And then also some components about phasing of construction and avoiding particularly busy tourist times and minimizing disruptions around that. We were instructed to seek input from residents on the layout of deployable and fixed sections as the design progresses. And our main homework for this phase of work was to return to council with recommendations for a deployable system and locations for fixed and deployable sections of dike. So that takes us to our objectives for the current phase of work. Our focus has been on looking into the feasibility of deployable diking along the waterfront, what concepts and strategies are out there for deployable diking, what would be suitable for the village of Harrison Hot Springs, and what design might allow us to maximize the amount of deployable diking possible to minimize permanent dike raising along the waterfront. And some evaluation criteria that we considered in looking at these options. First and foremost is flood protection performance. So just making sure that whatever design is selected maintains its integrity during a flood and will provide mitigation to the village during the design flood. And then operations are key, something with a low deployment time, which can be deployed internally by village staff as much as possible. And then post-flood, something that is easily removable and minimizes cleanup. Also, storage is a concern, just making sure that the storage of a deployable system is feasible in this setting. And then also looking at lifespan and overall cost of the product. So we've done a qualitative review of some of the options that are out there, which we will present to you today. And this is a review from the last meeting, but a note about deployment time. Just the importance of having something that's relatively quickly deployable. The faster it is to deploy this deployable dike, the less likely it is that the dike will be deployed for no reason. So looking, just doing a simplified look based on how quickly the lake comes up, looking at records of high lake levels since 1933. If you had something that could be deployed in 5 days, it would have been deployed 5 times since 1933. If that goes to 10 days, it would have been 66 times. And if you have something that takes 15 days, it would have been deployed almost every year over that period of record. And that's just based on, using this simplified analysis, how far in advance you would have to make a call whether to deploy the flood protection. So based on this, we should be aiming for under a week to deploy the temporary diking. And also it highlights the importance of having a staff who is familiar with the product, doing some practice runs so that it can be deployed efficiently to minimize time required. And also, it highlights the need to have a strong operational plan that, in addition, like this is a simplified analysis here, simply looking at the lake hitting a certain point and having to make a call. You could have a more complex forecasting system that considers flood forecasts that might allow you to make a call closer to when the product is actually needed. So moving to the next portion of this presentation, I'll run through 5 deployable dike concepts that we reviewed for suitability and also for comparison under the same evaluation criteria, permanent diking. So the first option we looked at is what's called a HESCO barrier. This is actually a brand name. There are actually other products out there that are similar, but it is a large gabion basket which is ballasted by fill. So you set them up along the waterfront and could fill them with sand. It's basically a bag with a metal frame to maintain its shape, and you fill it up with sand leading up to a flood. It does achieve the required height for this product. The units are also stackable if you need more height. In terms of flood protection performance, our understanding is that these are a fairly reliable emergency response type solution. They're widely used all over the world in many jurisdictions. For deployment, they could be deployed within our preliminary target of a week. I guess maybe a negative is that you need a large amount of fill to fill these up when you're deploying them. And we would need to give more thought as to where that fill is coming from. We do have a beach right there, but it's a question of accessing that fill during a flood and whether there is enough sand available. So it may involve stockpiling some fill for deployment purposes. In terms of removing the HESCO barriers, they do leave a bit of a mess. You pull the bags out, they leave sand on the waterfront, so there is a cleanup effort involved. So ideally, you wouldn't want to be deploying these too often. Storage, they have a low space requirement. They have, for lifespan, they are reusable. The fabric liner is typically replaced each time they are deployed, but the cost for both initial purchase and presumably future replacement would be fairly low. Next product we considered is one called Muscle Wall. These are low-density polyethylene barriers, which are filled with water to hold them in place. And they are wrapped in a synthetic liner, which adds to their waterproofing between joints. They achieve the required height, and there are extenders available. We understand them to be reliable in terms of their flood protection, and they are also quite well used around the world. These can be deployed quite quickly based on accounts that we have received from actual operational experience. You do need some equipment. It was recommended that you have a forklift or an excavator with forks to place them along the waterfront. And you also need a water source to fill them up. So that could be pumps, drawing water from the lake or from the municipal water system. That would need to be considered further. And also, as a fairly rigid product, you need a flat uniform surface so that you don't have gaps underneath the bottom of it. Post-flood removal, relatively quick. You drain out the water and remove them. Storage, there's a relatively high space requirement for them. However, initial reviews suggest that they could be stored in the village's works yards, but that would require further consideration. Lifespan, they are reusable, although they are susceptible to damage by the sun, so you ideally would like to keep them covered. That said, from people who use these, even if stored in the sun, they can last quite a while. The cost, they're at the mid-range of what's out there. They're more expensive than the HESCO barriers, but potentially feasible for this project. Next option considered is the water-filled tube barrier. There are several products out there. There's Aquadam, Tiger Dam, and Aqua Barrier as some examples. These you do see them fairly widely used as emergency response. They are easy to transport and flexible for locations that they can cover. However, from what we understand, they are subject to good installation. There are concerns with some of them that they could roll over. They do need to be staked in place. As a result, depending on the setting and the crew experience, they can be quite onerous to deploy. Some accounts suggest that they may take longer than a week to cover the waterfront, although some accounts suggest that they could be less than a week. And they are also, as a soft product, they are susceptible to puncture compared to some other products. After a flood, they are fairly quick to remove. You drain the water and they can store in a relatively small space. In terms of lifespan, they can be reused, although when they're reused, there is the potential that they become damaged each time they are deployed and stored again. Some manufacturers will tell you that they are officially single use. But the cost of those is relatively low as far as the products out there. Number 4 is the stop log system. So we have discussed this concept previously. One example where this is used is in Calgary along this landscaped flood wall that they've constructed. And this product uses aluminum slats that drop in between intermediate posts. The posts screw into a concrete footing. The footings are tapped with a threaded insert. So leading up to a flood, you go and install these intermediate posts, bolt them to the ground, and then without any heavy equipment, crew can go in and drop in the stop logs, which are relatively lightweight aluminum. This does offer a high level of flood protection. From what we understand, one of the highest levels of protection for deployable products that are out there. They're relatively quick to deploy. Another advantage of this is that you can deploy them in a phased manner. So you can drop in a first level of stop logs depending on your flood levels, and then go and add more height as required. After a flood, they can be removed relatively quickly. And one of the systems that we looked at has integrated storage along the dike. So you could deploy and remove it from these storage locations without having to transport the components. This product would be expected to last a long time. There might be some components that need to be replaced over time, such as rubber gaskets, but overall it's a durable product. The main downfall for this product is the price. This is the most expensive of the options that we considered, and it would not be feasible to have this along the entire waterfront. It would need to be more of a targeted solution combined with sections of permanent diking. Then we looked at whether we could come up with a custom design drawing upon the stop log installation. You know, the product we discussed just before is you know, a flood protection specific product that you purchase. It's tested, it's intended for use in deployable diking, but stop logs are used in various settings. For example, dams or gates to block flows, and these are sometimes simple timber structures or potentially steel or composite stop logs that are used in those settings. So we discussed whether we could look at doing something similar for a deployable dike. A product or a solution like that could potentially offer a high level of protection, but we have not come across any precedent for a custom design product such as this deployed over a length of waterfront, like along the village of Harrison Hot Springs lakefront. And if it's a custom design, unlike a product that you purchase, you know, it would require some engineering, but overall it would be relatively, it would be untested compared to those products that could be procured. So that is certainly a concern with going that route. And same with deployment time and resources compared to an off-the-shelf product. The deployment for a custom fabricated solution may not be quite as slick, may not be quite as user-friendly, and the overall deployment time may end up longer. For storage, it would require a similarly high storage footprint as the stop log system. If designing it as a custom product, rather than having slats that drop in, we would likely look at simplifying it as a solid panel that could be hoisted or dropped into place. with equipment to reduce complexity, but similar storage considerations there. And the big one is cost. So really the main opportunity to save cost over the stop log product is using a material like timber. But in speaking with timber stop log suppliers, there are concerns about lifespan for the stop logs when exposed to the elements if stored outside. So they might need to be replaced sooner than the design life for the dike at a relatively high cost. And then, of course, there may be some savings over that stop log product depending on the design, but it's going to require much more engineering effort to design a system like this. And then as a point of comparison, just considering a permanent dike, so some concepts for that. There is the earth-fill dike, which is the standard dike outlined in the province's dike design and construction guidelines. And then also potentially a permanent flood wall. For flood protection performance, this would be higher than any deployable system. It meets current best practices operationally. It doesn't need to be deployed or removed before and after a flood. Storage, obviously you're not storing any deployable products, but really the sticking point with a permanent dike in this setting is the overall project impact and disturbance of the dike. There is the visual disturbance of permanently raising the height of the dike. And also for an earth-fill dike, if that were considered, there would be quite a footprint to be dealt with for landscaping. Lifespan, these dikes last a long time. They require regular maintenance and inspection, and the cost is really dependent on the design. With an earth-fill dike, in theory, being one of the lower cost options, but that cost goes up when you consider the footprint and the landscaping requirements in the village's setting, and a flood wall being more expensive than an earth-fill dike, but reducing footprint. So just to put all of these concepts next to each other, we discussed 6 different potential concepts for diking along the waterfront. We had the HESCO barrier, which is a fill ballasted gabion. We have the muscle wall, which is a water-filled plastic barrier. We discussed water-filled tube barriers, a procured stop log system, coming up with a design for a custom deployable flood wall, and then as a point of a comparison, a permanent dike. So each of these options have pros and cons, which I've tried to summarize here. For the HESCO barrier, it is relatively low cost and understood to be reliable. The major downsides are the effort to deploy it and the cleanup after removal. For muscle wall, the cost is in the mid-range of options out there, and they are also understood to be reliable. It would not perform as strongly as the most reliable options out there, that being something like the stop log system, or a permanent dike, of course. And there's a relatively high storage requirement water-filled tube barriers, low cost, low storage space, ability, the stop log system, long lifespan, reliable. It can also be made to look quite nice and integrated with the landscape. But the main downfall is the cost. For a custom solution, there may be a way to achieve strong flood protection performance at a cost somewhat below option number 4, the stop log system. But it is a higher risk solution because it is not going to be something that is proven like some of the other options out there. And deployment may end up being more cumbersome as a custom product. And then permanent dike, this would be the highest reliability option for flood protection performance and the lowest operational effort, but highest for project impact along the waterfront. So for potential next steps, our proposed next step would be to progress detailed design based on a concept that we have looked into. A couple of strategies that could be pursued. One is to pursue a fully deployable dike along the waterfront. One of our main goals for this phase was to look into the feasibility of whether it would be possible to upgrade the dike with a fully deployable system, and our understanding is that it likely is. The most applicable products for that are muscle wall and HESCO barriers. Muscle wall being a good balance of flood protection performance, operational intensiveness, and cost. And then HESCO barriers being a product that is reliable for flood protection, the lower cost option. And the option that is selected is going to depend on overall cost of the project. Another option is to pursue the strategy we were previously discussing, which would be a hybrid of deployable and permanent diking, which could improve reliability of the flood protection performance and reduced operational burden, but the permanent locations will have a higher impact, and community engagement will be required to identify where those locations should be. And with all of this, as we progress with detailed design, the design will be subject to provincial approval by the Inspector of Dikes. So that is the overview that I have this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maldonado. Just an observation, much appreciated. I can tell from this that no stone was left unturned looking at options and solutions that might work for the village while maintaining views. Any questions from council on the presentation this evening? I know there's a motion for consideration as part of the package, but perhaps we'll entertain questions first. Councillor Violet.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to our presenter, thank you for that update. That's been very helpful to me. I just have one question on the deplorable dike. The muscle wall that you indicated, like the muscle wall or the HESCO barriers you feel would be most applicable if we decide to go with a deplorable dike. The muscle wall, are those panels that interlock. I just wanted a little bit of clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Can you describe these muscle wall, look sort of like a triangular roadside curb kind of thing? How they're put together and how they might be filled or unfilled?
Sure. You're still able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this shows just a crew here assembling one of the units. They do interlock together. Prior to putting out the physical barriers, you would lay down the waterproof liner and then place the barriers on top of it and then wrap the liner over top. The barriers are filled up with water, which weights them down and holds them in place, and the liner contributes to their waterproofing. What we have been told by those who use them in more emergency response type situations is that in a rush, they do achieve some level of performance without using the liner, but you would expect more leaking through the joints between the units.
Thank you. Councillor Fascio has a question. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Thank you, Daniel, for your presentation. The muscle wall ticks off all my boxes. I think that's the way to go. It's deployable, and it's I think it looks like they're easily handled, and storage. I'm sure we could find the storage, but I would definitely be looking at that one as one of the number one for myself. Now, as far as the aquadam is concerned, we do have the aquadams. We've had them since quite a few years now. Now, that myself personally, I would give some consideration that could be used, that's deployable in Rendell Park, instead of making Rendell Park a permanent one. There may be a way of looking at that. I appreciate the road to the wastewater treatment plant. That's a different scenario entirely. It's got to be raised. So that carries a major component for the village. But for the Rendell Park portion, that could save us some money on the deployable if they become more expensive to cover from the boat launch to wherever the road is going to be raised from the hotel to the wastewater treatment plant. So that I think should be given some consideration. The aquadams, which we have in storage, they're in containers, so they're protected. But I definitely like the water-filled muscle wall. I think that's definitely the best option, and as you say, probably a moderate cost as well. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Councillor Swinebens.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. First of all, Daniel, thank you for attending tonight. I remember, I think it was probably 2.5 years ago, you first came to a community, and I was very alarmed at some of the plans that were being proposed to build a big dike in front of our businesses and in front of our communities. So to see this evolve into a Made in Harrison solution, I think is fantastic. And we're not at the end zone yet, but we're getting there. And I think it's going to be palatable to the community and to the businesses. So I'm very grateful about that. A couple questions though. Zone number 2 is the road to the wastewater treatment plant. And you've got that going only at 14.7 meters. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, so the height of The proposed height for the dike of 15.1 is based on the 1894 flood level plus 0.6 meters of freeboard, which is essentially the factor of safety, and then with an additional allowance for wave runup. That is the proposed level for the dike and for the shoreline around the wastewater treatment plant to provide protection against inundation. For the road, as we discussed design criteria, it was discussed that some wave overtopping would be allowable. So as a result, we've identified a level equal to the design flood level plus 0.6 meters of freeboard to provide that vehicle access.
Okay, so water won't be able to backflow over that lower part? If everything else is 15.1 from mountain to mountain, water won't be able to go over that 14.7 height?
So one clarification is the end of the dike, which seals off the village waterfront, is just west of the pump station. At that point, the dike would tie into high ground, so that would be the portion that is essentially sealed off as the dike crest. The Zone 1 and 2 do not serve to keep the water out of the community. They are up against the hillside.
Okay, okay, perfect, thanks. You've mentioned the pump house. Regardless of what we decide in terms of our deployable or hybrid, will whatever technology we have, will the water be able to get out of the village from Miami River? We're in effect not creating a dam to keep the Miami River in. Is the pump going to be able to manage whatever flow we get from the south in a catastrophic flood?
So our understanding is that the pump is designed to pump when the lake level is at that 1894 flood level, based on flows expected at that time. However, as a secondary project, we actually are doing a review of the pump station as well to ensure that is the case.
Okay, good to hear. I think a lot of people would be happy to hear that because there's concern about that. Just as a comment, the HESCO barrier, I thought originally that would be a good idea, but it sounds like we'll need many thousands of cubic meters of aggregate lying around somewhere to be able to deploy into these SACs. So I don't know that would be a good one, and I think there'd be reluctance to install it year to year because of the resulting mess and the expense that will be incurred to clean that up. So I agree with others. I think the muscle wall is a great idea, and as well as the water-filled tube barriers. I didn't realize that there were only one or two uses. It seems to me like we have everything in place that the Tiger dams and water-filled tubes would be a good idea because we just have to fill them with water. We could reuse them and maybe on the south end of the village, or use the pumps for other purposes, maybe during wildfire season if the fire department needs it. So I'd like to explore that one as well. The other comment or maybe question is in the number 5, your custom deployable flood wall. You've got timbers being used. I thought you had mentioned at one time that there's large corrugated metal panels that can also be used to drop into place. Is that still possible?
That is a possibility as one of the materials for stop logs that could be placed. But like any of them, it would need to be designed. But that is still a possibility.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Swinburne. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you. It seems to me this has been a long, long journey. and hopefully we're at the end of it. I think one thing we can definitively say tonight is that item number 6, the permanent dike will not be built. A lot of people had a fear of this, and that's gone. I see the muscle wall as the way to go. I think the time now has to come to have this referred to staff, to come back to council with what it's going to cost. So we can start to get this going in 2026. I mean, we've kicked the ball around. We've had great reports coming in here. I'm really, really pleased with it. So I think the time is to, after you speak, Your Worship, make a motion to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I have a question regarding, well, I guess a two-part question. You're talking here about geotechnical improvements for the existing dike. So I guess I'm reading into that the existing dike is, suffers seepage or could be leaky. Can you tell me what might be involved in the geotechnical improvements?
Sure. So going into this project, there was limited geotechnical information available, as was summarized in that 2015 Lower Mainland Dike Assessment. At the start of this detailed design project, we did do some geotechnical investigations where we drilled along the waterfront. What we found is essentially it's mostly sand the whole way down through the dike and below the dike. Sand is a very permeable material. And our geotechnical engineers have identified the potential for a seepage-related failure if you had water up against the dike. That is one of the main ways that dikes fail, water percolating through the dike fill and causing that fill to migrate. So the preliminary recommendation has been to do some below grade improvements to improve seepage performance. The concept at this time would be some sort of seepage cutoff, like a sheet pile wall installed below grade, which would essentially form a barrier for seepage going through the dike fill. That sheet pile barrier would potentially have a concrete surface at the top, which could make a nice uniform surface for the deployable dike as well. But that is currently at the conceptual stage.
Thank you, that's helpful, and that may actually be some of the more important upgrades to the existing dike. The CAO Cook.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I understand that Councillor Fascio may still have his hand up, and after he has, if he has something to say, I would like to say, if a moment to say something, if possible, please.
Councillor Fascio, further comment or question?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick comment. Where I am at the moment in Parksville, I had a walk today to the front of Qualicum Beach where the ocean is, and there is quite interpretive signage there explaining what they're doing, looking to what may happen in wave actions and the ocean getting higher with the climate change. And they have actually built a very high walkable wall part of the front there, and also they've built up the massive rock barrier in front of this as well. So they're looking at portions of that area as well, looking to the future. But this is permanent. This is not deployable. They made it look very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. CAO Cook.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I do want to thank council for their careful deliberation regarding the dike and the difference between the deployable and the permanent. I also want to thank Daniel and NHC for the amount of time that they've put into this, and it's been very well thought out. I also want to thank Jace for the amount of sleepless hours that he's put into this project, trying to understand what's available, meetings. As far as I know, he does have a newborn baby, so he's sitting up anyways, but doing a lot of thinking about this project, so I want to thank him. And I also want to thank the community for being engaged. And a few weeks ago, we spoke with a number of residents, and they did air their concerns. We've done a lot of public consultation. But it appears that there was a group that may or may not have been missed. We do apologize for that, but again, I do thank them for being engaged, and I do look forward, as Councillor Jackson did speak to this project moving forward, and I do believe that the motion that Mayor Tallon will be reading out here will hopefully get us there and see us move on to detailed design for early next year. Thank you.
There's a recommended motion. Perhaps, Corporate Officer, you could read it out for us.
Thank you. So the motion for consideration for council is that staff be directed to pursue a detailed design for a deployable dike system in zones 3 to 6, and that staff be directed to report back to council at a future committee of the whole meeting regarding the financial implications, ability to deploy, storage and durability, longevity of a deployable dike system, and any permanent features associated with the deployable dike.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Councillor Fascio, you are in favor of the
I'm
motion?
definitely in favour, Your Worship, yes.
I just didn't see your hand. That carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Malduff, for the presentation. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
It's going to be a long council meeting. Item 10 is correspondence. Could I have a motion to receive the correspondence that's included in our council package tonight?
So moved, Mayor Tallon.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And the correspondence is moved in. Councillor Fascio, I saw you also voting in favor. Item 11 is business arising from correspondence. Any business, any comments, questions arising from correspondence? Where shall I start tonight? Councillor Fascio, online.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on page 39 from Carlton Toes regarding Hot Springs Road speed limits. I did email the gentleman to let him know that we have been trying for many years with the highways, the province, the RCMP and ICBC to reduce the speed limit from 60 to 50, and of course the 30 would remain at the school because it goes from 80 to 60 to 50 to 30 back to 50. A lot of speed changes, but we're still in conversation. If we have an opportunity to meet with the provincial staff, that would be one of the discussions regarding reducing the speed limit on Hot Springs Road. Thank you. And page 41. No, that's all. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Page 41, your letter from regarding community meeting and gathering space. I appreciate this letter and the work of the committee. And I think further down the line, if we're in a position to have a new village office building constructed, then I certainly would support some space available. In the meantime, I want to make a few other possible suggestions or temporary solutions, and that would be perhaps the committee could look at the church and contact the church to see if they would have any available space. And also it has occurred to me that some of the condo buildings also have amenity rooms that could possibly provide that room temporarily. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Jackson, any comments on the correspondence? None tonight. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Yeah, regarding the speed zones, I would like to also see us, as an entire community, other than the school zone, become 50 kilometers. So I wasn't sure if Councillor Fascio said that you are meeting with the Minister of Transportation regarding this. Do we already have letters in support of this? Do we need one? Perhaps I can seek clarification from Councillor Fascio.
I believe what I said, if we are fortunate enough to have a meeting with their staff, I believe this was one of the questions that was asked originally and put forward by our corporate officer, but that, I can be corrected on that. Thank you.
Sorry, perhaps that's, Mayor Talon, that's a question for CAO. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz, I'll pass it over to our corporate officer to confirm, because she did receive the email.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. Yes, so we've received confirmation, not of a meeting with the minister, but of a meeting with ministry staff for transportation and transit at the UBCM convention. I don't believe that the speed limit along Hot Springs Road was one of the topics that we introduced. We put forward replacing sections of the sidewalk from McPherson to Miami River Drive, and also support for the north of Fraser transit route. And the last item that we put forward there was generally some safety along Lillooet Avenue, crosswalk bulbs, and the high traffic area here on Lillooet Avenue, close to Rockwell Drive.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. Councillor Schweinbenz, just jump in. I know you got more to say. I seem to recall when we approved the development of that 28-unit apartment building, one of the conditions was that the proponent was going to do a traffic and transportation study, and hopefully that will maybe highlight increased traffic and left turns and all that kind of in that vicinity, and that would be more information for us to take to Department of Transportation about making a safe speed limit entering the village. CO Cook.
Thank you, Your Worship. This was brought up the last time at UBCM when we spoke to the minister, and it has been an ongoing concern. Staff has been communicating with ministry staff as well with the previous concern, but certainly when we get an opportunity to speak to ministry staff, there shouldn't be a reason why, even though we did provide some topics, that this couldn't become part of that discussion.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd like us to pursue that speed level change if we could. On page 41, Mayor Talon, Councillor Fascio has already alluded to this. Do you need anything from us in terms of a motion to maybe include this as part of our civics lands master plan? How would you like to pursue this letter that you've got here from the age-related committee?
CO Cook, something that might help inform this?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. If I'm not mistaken, we do have COW coming up, I believe, that we're speaking to the future village office, and that can be discussed at that time. And if there was going to be a motion required to provide additional information, I would encourage staff, or sorry, the council to consider it at that time.
Thank you, CEO Cook. Councillor Schweinbenz, maybe a bit of background to the letter, what led to the letter. The Age Friendly Committee had on 2 separate meetings, if I recall correctly, discussions about meeting spaces for community events. And it was put that Memorial Hall is great for what Memorial Hall does well, such as council meetings, large events, other types of things where you need this kind of space. But often there's a need for a community space or spaces that are smaller in size, easier to book, that don't come with the administrative burden of opening and closing this building, insurance requirements, and those kind of things. So the committee looked at this and had a long conversation, and instead of the committee wanting to just pass a resolution or forward a resolution or recommendation to council to say, make it happen, it was more thought a letter would be better to put this in the minds of council as other opportunities come up in the next while, so that this idea for a smaller, more informal, easier access community spaces for community groups to use is something that's in the council's mind and not lost and not forgotten. So that was the idea behind the letter, and I think if there is a future meeting talking about potential offices and other types of things, this would be a good one just to have on the radar and something that can be considered at that time.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Lastly, there's a collection of letters in our package that I wanted to highlight. They're from, and this is no particular order, from Mrs. Wauda, Moore, Allen, Shear, Hampson, Corinne, Martin, and Mrs. Honey. And it's with regards to the proposed seniors housing. And I wanted to thank these people for very positive messages, very professional, very succinct. They make good points, they make it clear, and they do so without attacking people. They state their opposition to the project, and they state their reasons very, very well. And I'm glad that they kept people out of it. And I like their tone, I like their information, and I hope that can continue. And just for council to ponder, one of them has written here, and it kind of highlighted, I think, what we need to do, and that is, and she states, instead, I urge council to consider amending local bylaws to permit legal detached and attached suites and multi-generational housing, allowing seniors to live on the same property as their children. You know, this topic has obviously roused a lot of passion and inflamed some opinions. The reality is, you know, and this was presented the other night, we've got 44 people per week in Harrison Hot Springs going to the food bank. We've got 47 people who had to defer their taxes this year because they can't afford it, and they're over the age of 55. And I think that the sophistication and the level of a society is the amount that it cares for the people that really can't always care for itself. And, you know, so therefore I like the people who are proposing solutions and not just attacking people and attacking the project. We all feel that there could be unintended consequences, but just like the dike project from 2.5 years ago that went from something that was really abhorrent to most of us, it's evolved into something that's a good made in Harrison solution. And I think the good people of Harrison are going to find a solution to help these people that need help in our community, because they've got value as well. So I hope we keep getting letters that are solutions based, and I want to congratulate those folks that wrote in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Seeing no other discussion on correspondence, I'll move to item.
Pardon me, sir. Councillor Fascio has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Fascio, I missed that. Please proceed.
Hello? No, my hand is lowered.
Councillor Fascio, just to be clear, you don't have another question or comment on the correspondence?
No, just like Councillor Schweinbenz just indicated, it's very good that people write in, and it's It's the way to move forward in a respectful manner. And this is all we ask people to do, is to treat everybody with respect. Say it's as Councillor Schweinberg says, it's the project we should be concentrating on and not attacking people. So thank you for those comments, Councillor Schweinbenz, and thank you to the people who wrote the letters in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Moving on, our agenda item 12, reports from councillors. Who would like to start this evening? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. August 23rd, I had the pleasure of attending the garden party hosted by the community gardens. And I want to say, I'm so impressed with the improvements and the additions that have been done this year. So my sincere congratulations to the board members of the community gardens. August 29th, I had a short meeting with Healthy Communities. We had discussed earlier about having a mobilization or mini strategic plan later on this fall, but we are now going to postpone that until the spring due to time constraints with Fraser Health members. September 3rd, I attended the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Program Committee, and I would just like to highlight some of the report from our emergency planner. This report is from May to September. And while daytime temperatures begin to rise in the low 30s in July, nighttime temperatures did continue to cool off significantly. In August, we saw the hottest heat of the summer with temperatures reading 36 degrees. While these temperatures are high, they still cooled off in the evenings, which prevents the triggering of what is called the official heat warning, which is noted as being 2 consecutive days of temperatures above 33 degrees. And the Humidex is not included in that calculation. While Agassiz and Harrison both saw an increase in air pollution due to the Bear Mount Wire fire, it was typically at higher elevations and only present in the early morning to midday. Despite some pretty intense precipitation in mid-August, wildfires continued to ignite and impact both communities and the province. July 17th, the Coastal Fire Center prohibited all outdoor fires within the fire center. This prohibition remains in effect at the time of the report. 2 local area fires were visible, and they were monitored closely by members of the emergency team. June 15th was the last snow survey and water supply bulletin at that time. It was recorded that the province was averaging a below normal amount of 13%. The Kent Harrison Emergency Services Group currently have 13 volunteer members, and 2 of the newest team members will be attending a critical incident stress debriefing training. September 3rd, I attended the community engagement meeting held here at Memorial Hall. And tonight is my final public service announcement for the upcoming Terry Fox Run or Walk, which is being held this Sunday, September 14th in the Village Plaza for registration, and the Rock commencing at 10 o'clock. You have a very, very hardworking committee, and we are encouraging participants to register and donate online if possible. And you can just visit the Terry Fox Foundation website, do a search for the Harrison Hot Springs Agassiz Run. From there, you can register and donate. Let's keep Terry's dream alive and finish it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Fascio?
Thank you, Your Worship. On the 4th of September, I attended the Fraser Valley Regional District BRACS meeting, and just a couple of reports regarding the monitoring of air quality in our small communities. There are now 6 monitoring stations, and our closest one is in Agassiz. And throughout the whole region, there are 13 sensors. They are monitoring the air quality as well. So overall, the air quality in our region seems to be reasonably well. It goes up and down in cycles like everything else, but it's that particular matter that that they're concerned about, that they keep a very close watch on, because of course that gets into your lungs. The other one was the corporate greenhouse gas emissions reporting for the regional Fraser Valley Regional District. Their total tons of equivalent saving of equivalent tons of CO2 is 656. That's from natural gas, energy source, electricity, gasoline, diesel, and propane. And the Fraser Valley Regional District, as a signatory of the Climate Action Charter, is eligible for funding through the local government Climate Action Program, which supports efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to advance climate action initiative. 2024, they received funding totaling $331,338. On the 28th of August, I attended for the regional district, the opening of the wastewater treatment plant at Coltis Lake, a much awaited plant for that area. It will serve between 300,000 to 350,000 people. A beautiful complex, and it was opened by our chair, Patricia Ross. I did speak to one of the board from the Parks Board there, and I was asking how many people do they get there when they're busy in the summer months like Harrison Hot Springs. Well, of course, you know, Coltis Lake is mostly built up of parks, so they can get many thousands of millions of people that come there. And I happened to ask the question, and what is the routes for these people? He says, there's, like Harrison, there's one way in and one way out. On the 16th of August, I attended the RCMP 75-year anniversary of the Upper Fraser Valley Detachment in Chilliwack, a very well laid out reception for all the public there with all the different booths. Unfortunately, due to the unfortunate drowning in the village, the diving team that was going to do a demonstration were not available. They were on their way to Harrison. And on the 30th of August, I had the pleasure of watching our Mayor Tallon open up the bands on the beach this year. As we all know, it's only a one-day event, but for what I could see on my trips in the morning and the afternoon and the evening before it finished, that it appeared to be a very good turnout. Many people were there to see the 5 groups that played there. So that is my report for this session. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not going to go over all the meetings I attended. it would take too much time. And we've heard most of it already. However, I would like to say that the Communities in Bloom this year has had a very, very successful year. Our first Garden of the Week went off very successfully. Our garden tour was a great success. Two of our members will be attending in Kelowna the award ceremony to represent the village. The more that we're exposed through Communities in Bloom, this is free advertising. It goes out all through the whole country. So I'm sure in the long run, it's going to bring more people here. We've had our meeting today. We're developing our program for the rest of this year and for 2026. If any other person out there would like to become a committee member, they can just apply to us because we're always looking for good people. We have an excellent group now, and we're just going to work very, very hard to improve the beauty of the village. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I'll try to be fast here. My board reports have been quiet because it's August. They get started next week, but I wanted to shout out to the staff. When I drive around in the last few weeks, I see big pipes being laid and ditches being dug, and I just think it's fantastic. There's dozens of workers in our village. And it's all being coordinated by Jace, and I know he's up late at night thinking about these things, but these are amazing engineering projects that are, and we're shooting for the moon on these things, and he's getting a lot of extra stuff done, so we really, really appreciate it. It's going to be a totally different road system and drainage system. Also, the field staff. All throughout the summer, we've met tourists from all around the world, friends coming in and visiting. They can't believe how clean the place is. I know we have a limited number of field people, but they work so hard. I try to make a point of going to see them every week and saying hi to people. Our gardens have never looked better. Our lawns have never looked better. We really appreciate the teamwork that's out there. And also our office staff. People may not realize how lucky we are to have probably among the most talented and capable and accessible staff in BC. We're very, very fortunate to have them. They volunteer their time on other committees and other boards within the community, and we're very fortunate that they do. Special shout out to Amanda and Chrissy, who in very difficult circumstances had a presentation last week, which was fantastic. But Mayor Talon, I fear that sometimes we put our staff in harm's way in asking them to do these extra things because they don't have a chance to defend themselves when they're getting bows and arrows on social media. That should be directed to the council people or to the projects in particular. But we have unfortunately put them in a position where staff is in harm's way, and I regret that. But thank you for your service. We appreciate all that you do. Another shout out to the Agassiz Harrison Community Services. They also have been dragged through the mud, Mayor Talon, unfortunately. They are made up of volunteers and workers that give to this community and try their best to do what they can to help the underprivileged and other people in this community. They've also been dragged through the mud, but they are a proud, long-serving organization, and us as a council need to support them regardless of whatever's happening with this project. Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Swinburne. The next item on our agenda is reports from Mayor. Before I get to my report, I need to speak to a couple things. Recent posts on social media from residents have been critical of certain village staff. Concerns regarding the performance of any village staff should be brought to my attention as mayor or the village's CAO. To begin, it's been alleged on social media that the village's chief financial officer, Mr. Schultz, work for the village has been compromised due to being on the board of directors for Agassiz Harrison Community Service. Mr. Schultz has my full confidence that he has and will continue to act in accordance with the highest professional and ethical standards. That Mr. Schultz's sense of community led him to volunteer his free time on the board of Agassiz Harrison Community Services is a testament to his character and commitment to our community. The village is fortunate to have him as one of our senior staff. The blanket assertion made on social media that membership on a not-for-profit board's directors is a problem is one I reject. I too am on the Agassiz Harrison Board of Directors, appointed as a council liaison at an open council meeting. Other members of council and staff are on other boards. and committees such as the Historical Society, libraries, tourism. This shows how council is involved and engaged in our community. These are not problems, they are strengths. I am also appointed by council to the Agassiz-Harrison Chamber of Commerce. For example, should the chamber begin to discuss, hypothetically, seeking lower business license fees, I would of course recuse myself from any such discussions. I am confident Mr. Schultz has and will continue to act in a similar manner should the Agassiz-Harrison Community Services Board discuss matters that would likewise raise the potential for conflict. I hope Mr. Schultz continues to volunteer his time with Agassiz-Harrison Community Services, as this organization provides many valuable programs and delivers many services to residents of Harrison Hot Springs and Agassiz. Social media posts have also been critical of our corporate officers' exercise of her responsibilities setting council meeting agendas and determining what is included in our council meeting agenda package. The village's corporate officer diligently and professionally drafts council meetings agendas for my review and approval in accordance with both legislation and council direction. The village's corporate officer performs her duties exceptionally well and corresponds with residents professionally and respectfully. She has my full support and appreciation for doing an important job so competently. As with the many administrative decisions, appeals of administrative decisions can be made to the mayor or council. Regarding the inclusion of delegations at a council meeting agenda, appeals can be made to myself as mayor. Criticizing and making insulting remarks on social media about the corporate officer's work drafting agendas while not taking any action to appeal the decision only creates animosity when none is warranted. I want to turn and talk a little bit about how this discourse in the village has got to this point. Yes, council received a proposal from Agassiz-Harrison Community Services proposing an application to BC Housing for funding to construct and operate a subsidized independent seniors housing project in the village. Yes, land is needed for the project. Agassiz-Harrison Community Services approached the village for a letter of intent to lease land to them for this project at a nominal rate for 60 years. Yes, council made a decision to sign a letter of intent to lease these lands to Agassiz-Harrison Community Services if BC Housing supports the application made by Agassiz-Harrison Community Services, and then to explore and fully define this seniors housing project before making any final decision. The fact is, council can abandon this project prior to making a final decision without penalty. In fact, a final decision has not been made by council on whether to proceed with the project. I am personally reserving making a decision whether to support this project if BC Housing supports Agassiz-Harrison Community Services application until I have more information and the many questions I have and have heard are answered. At this time, I'm neither in favor of the project nor am I opposed. I am in favor of exploring this proposal further, and when answers to the many questions are found, consider at that time whether this subsidized independent seniors housing project is a good fit for and in the best interests of the village. There have been some criticism that exploring this project and signing the letter of intent puts the cart before the horse, so to speak, and that before committing to exploring to this, the project should have been more fully designed and described. I believe it's likely if that approach was taken, the criticism would be that behind closed doors, the village developed the whole project without public input and presented it as a fait accompli. I believe the current process, while it creates some anxiety and uncertainty, maximizes opportunities for public input and is open and transparent. When I look back over several weeks ago or months ago when this project was proposed at a council meeting, many people had questions. These questions came from a place of, we love living in Harrison Hot Springs. Harrison Hot Springs is a great community filled with great people. We don't want to see this great community damaged or destroyed. Let's keep the great thing we have here. I fully agree with every one of these statements. What happened next as questions arose, many questions, genuine curiosity. And I understand that. I too have questions and want to know more. But this curiosity led some to know more about Agassiz-Harrison Community Services. What does Agassiz-Harrison Community Services do? What's their mission? Who works for them? Who's on their board of directors? And then more questions. How can I contact Agassiz Harrison Community Services or their board members? Where do they live? Where do they work? Does their employer know about this? Why did they leave their last job? What did their employer think? Now, on to amplifying fears of losing what people love about Harrison Hot Springs. Social media makes up motives, and speculation starts. Then claims start that I am wrong, misinformed, assert that I'm being intentionally deceitful, assert that I'm corrupt. I was asked what was my price for selling out the village. There must be money changing hands through contracts. Assert that I'm willfully ignorant, incompetent, and abusing process, abusing power, and need to be stopped. Now stop and consider where this started. It started from a genuine love of Harrison Hot Springs, preserving what is good. And now we're at a place where anger and insults are directed towards myself, council, the Agassiz Harrison Community Services staff, and their board of directors. What I do know is that nothing was learned about the proposed seniors housing project as a result of this. But that's always the case. Attacking people never results in a better understanding of the issue. I believe the rest of council are available and open to discussing this proposed project, its merits, its detractions, what it might be, what it should never be. However, I just have no time for those who just want to hurl insults. I've read on social media that this proposed subsidized independent seniors housing project is called by some as Trojan Towers. Let's think about that for a minute. No doubt this is a reference to the story from Greek antiquity where a city accepted a gift from the city's enemies, a large wooden horse. The horse was brought into the city, and enemy soldiers hidden in the horse came out of the horse, and once it was in the city, destroyed the city. Yes, there are those that believe that someone renting in this building, if it is built, is an enemy set on destroying our village. The information presented at the town hall meeting last Wednesday suggested to me that there are people living in Harrison Hot Springs today that might consider renting in it if such a subsidized seniors housing project was ever built. Instead of enemies out to destroy, I'd prefer to call those persons residents of Harrison Hot Springs or our neighbors. If BC Housing supports Agassiz Harrison Community Services application, the village will work to get answers to the questions we've heard. That information will be shared. I will advocate for further community input on this project, and I want to hear from as many residents as possible about the project. Should the BC Housing support the application before considering any final decision on whether to proceed or abandon this project? I would encourage everyone to stay in the village, to stay engaged, ask questions, consider the information that will be provided in the future, share your views with myself or other councillors on the project, and just please be kind to one another. My mayor's report. August 18th, Miami Streamkeepers meeting. I attended that, and people may have seen the floating rafts in the Miami River. That's a project with Stehalis, I believe, jointly planting something in these styrofoam rafts, some kind of plants that are designed to take up excess nutrients and maybe some contamination. So keep an eye on that. I think they're at their ugliest right now, and apparently everything on them will grow and it will just look like a floating island down the road. August 20th, I attended story time in the park, and our MLA, Tony Luck, did the reading. I was disappointed that our MLA did not do the voices for the book that he read, which was Mosquitoes Don't Bite Ninjas. We both had our ninja headbands on, and it was a really well-organized event, and really impressed to see how many people got out to take that in. August 21st, age-friendly committee meeting, and September 3rd, I joined Councillor Vital at the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Planning Committee. And on September 4th, I had a resort community collaborative mayors meeting. Last meeting, this is of mayors of the resort communities, of which Harrison is one, lining up our preparation and getting our speaking lines right and making the right pitches at UBCM to keep the resort municipal infrastructure funding flowing and keep that project there and maybe even expand the types of projects that can be done. There's lots of great, exciting things happening with our resource development strategy, and that RMI funding supports it. So getting provincial support to keep those grant fundings coming means that we can make improvements that visitors and residents as well can enjoy, and use provincial grant money as opposed to our tax base for it. And that's my report. Our next item on the agenda is reports and minutes from committees and commissions. Corporate Officer, motion to that effect?
Thank you. Yes. So the motion is that the following adopted minutes be received for information. And it's items 14A through D, which are 2 Communities in Bloom Committee meeting minutes, 1 Environmental Advisory Committee meeting minutes, and 1 age-friendly.
So moves, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Swinevans. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Corporate Officer, the next item, please.
Thank you. Our next item is a report from the Environmental Advisory Committee. They met recently on September 3rd, 2025, and passed 2 recommendations, or 2 resolutions, sorry, for council recommended action. So the recommendation is that council approve the following recommendations from the Environmental Advisory Committee: that council directs staff to review the current OCP from an environmental perspective to determine how policies regarding water conservation, energy conservation, protection of the Miami River, waste reduction, and tree canopy improvement and renewal can be strengthened, and that staff be directed to research and adopt a trail or shoreline program to address littering along the lagoon pathway.
So moved, Mayor Talon.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinvans. Discussion on this.
Your Worship.
Councillor Fascio, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you to the Advisory Planning Committee for their input into this, but I'd just like to make some points here in regarding the, now we do have a policy in place, as we all know, regarding water conservation in the village, and we're very fortunate in the village to have the water that we do have, because at the moment in Parksville, they're on stage 4 with water restrictions over this area here. Now, in the OCP, page 56, under 3.10, environmentally sensitive areas, in regards to the protection of the Miami River, this has been very well laid out in the OCP. Protect the natural beauty, environment, integrity of the community. We are paying particular attention to the forested areas of Miami River, Harrison Lake, and Harrison River. To develop an inventory of environmentally sensitive areas in the community and identify conservation requirements for important natural areas and features, to actively support community efforts to protect and rehabilitate the Miami River, and to implement the provincial and federal government's requirements for streamside protection. To designate environmentally sensitive areas as development permanent areas, recognizing the special natural features that require appropriate protection and enhancement. So I think that has been covered without having to staff to review this again. And on page 33 of the OCP, let's pull that up here, page 33, under bullet number 5, the tree protection section was taken out. This issue is better addressed through the Urban Forest Master Plan Review and Tree Protection Bylaw. So that has been put into a tree protection bylaw. So I'm not sure why we would be asking the staff to look further into this and to strengthen, which has already been strengthened in the OCP. So that's where I'm coming from. The recommendation is fine, but I don't think we need to direct staff to move any further on the water conservation, the Miami River, or the tree canopy improvement. That's my comments on that recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Mayor Talon, and thank you, Councillor Fascio. Yeah, we met the other day, and it's more to allow us the ability to really take a deeper dive into the OCP. There could always be improvements. This was tabled in 2022. Things are changing. Things are always going to change. As an example, when it comes to tree canopy, we'd like to take a look at the OCP and related bylaws that will compel both residences and developers to do a one-for-one. If a tree, for as an example, is removed, it's got to be replaced somewhere else. And I think we want that as an ethos in our village. And that's just one example. So I'm looking for this council support on allowing us to take a deeper dive into this. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just absorbing Councillor Swinburne's comment. Do I understand correctly that the intention is that staff look at the official community plan and see if it can inform other policies? Okay. Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion? And that carries unanimously. Thank you for the clarifications and the discussion. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. So we are moving on to item 15, which is reports from staff. On page 97 of your agenda package, I have a report regarding the Harrison Yacht Club building permit application. The village is the registered owner of 98 Rockwell Drive. The site has 2 buildings on it, one of which is currently occupied by the Harrison Yacht Club. They are looking to add a covered patio to the west side of the building. However, the lease agreement between the village and the Harrison Yacht Club requires that no alterations be made to the land or the building without the village's permission. The village's planning consultant would provide comments at the time of the building permit stage, and so at this point tonight, we're just looking for direction from council as to whether they consent as the landowner. And so the recommendation is that council grant the Harrison Yacht Club permission to view and obtain copies of all plans and permits and apply for and obtain a building permit with the Fraser Valley Regional District, and that pursuant to Section 9 of the Building Lease and License Agreement dated May 1st, 2012 between the Harrison Yacht Club and the village, council authorized the Chief Administrative Officer to provide consent and approval on behalf of the village with respect to the proposed covered patio.
So moved, Mayor Talon.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Swinburne. I think I saw your hand first. Discussion on that motion? Councillor Vital.
No comments. Thank you.
Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to as CAO. I'm just curious how long of a lease agreement we have on that property with the Harrison Yacht Club is. Oh, sorry, Corporate Officer. Thank you.
Go ahead, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. The lease agreement with Harrison Yacht Club is tied to the water lot tenure below, because they have, it's also a Crown grant, or a lease on the water lot there. It expires in 2027, but under the current lease agreement, the village is obligated to pursue another 5-year lease with the province at a minimum, which would put theoretically to 2032. However, it is taking quite a long time for the province to process these lease agreements. So it's tied to the water lot tenure, because it doesn't make sense for the yacht club to have the water lot or to have the land lease without the water lot.
Thank you, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. So any improvements that they make to that building well, they're going to last a long time, and that lease will be continued. And sorry, just one quickly, Mayor Talon, how long have they had that leasehold for on that land? How long has the yacht club been there?
Corporate officer, do you know offhand?
I don't have the exact year. It has been quite some time. I know the current lease agreement was 2012, and that there was a lease agreement prior to that. That was probably at least 10 years. I don't have the exact date, but it has been several decades, I would say.
Thank you, corporate officer.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
That was it. I don't have any other questions. I'll call the vote. Seeing no more questions, all in favor of the motion? And that carries unanimously. Right. Next item, corporate officer.
Thank you. The next item is a report from our Director of Operations, who has a PowerPoint this evening regarding the Lillooet West Streetscape Enhancement Project.
Please proceed, Director of Operations.
Thank you. The presentation brought to Council this evening is on the Lillooet West Streetscape Enhancements with an attached report in the agenda package. This project is part of the village's ongoing efforts to improve public spaces and create a welcoming, cohesive landscape experience. Streetscape design intends on improving infrastructure and conditions along Lillooet Avenue between Hot Springs Road and St. Alice Street, focusing on walkability, aesthetics, and creating community space. The project was included in the Resort Development Strategy and approved as a 2026 initiative with $400,000 allocated for the initial construction phase and design. Community engagement has helped shape the conceptual designs, with further work required for detailed design. Engagement included an open house on March 3rd, along with online and in-person surveys. Through this engagement, the key feedback we received included the need for improved sidewalks, increased green space and tree planting, and enhanced pedestrian safety and walkability. So these are some existing conditions. These images show the current state on Lillooet Avenue West. As you can see, the area lacks a cohesive design, some pedestrian infrastructure, and green space. Currently, there's informal gravel parking areas and sidewalks that are in need of replacement. These conditions help set the stage for why an enhancement project in this area would be necessary. So through working with KM Civil and their landscape architect, a conceptual design was developed. I would like to mention that this design, along with the renderings on the upcoming slides, are concepts. Feasibility and exploring these concepts through detailed design will shape the final outcome of the plan. The design presented here includes new concrete sidewalks with accessibility aspects, tree planting and landscaping for shade, plaza nodes with seating to encourage gathering space, and strategically placed parking to balance vehicle access with green space. High-level cost estimates allow for a large portion of the concept to be achieved. This may include roadworks, sidewalks, parking improvements, and tree plantings. Additional funding will be required in future years to complete the full scope of the project. So this rendering is looking at Lillooet Avenue from Hot Springs Road. It includes new tree plantings, landscaping, and small plaza areas with seating opportunities. This rendering also provides conceptual ideas for sidewalk paving and plaza nodes with seating and other planting opportunities as well. If approved, the tentative schedule for this project is proposed as the following. Summer of 2025, the conceptual design, which is now complete. Winter of this year would be detailed design and procurement. Spring 2026, construction would start in early spring with contractor requirements to meet substantial completion prior to summer. So the recommendation in front of Council tonight is that staff proceed with detailed design of the Lillooet West Streetscape enhancements at a cost up to $45,000 to be funded by the Resort Municipality Initiative Grant Fund, and that the Lillooet West Streetscape preliminary design be referred to the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Director of Operations.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Maybe through you to our corporate officer, are we going to be voting separately on these recommendations, or are we looking at just one? And the reason I ask is because I do have some comments for the second part of the recommendation.
Corporate officer.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Vital. Yes, if you'd like to request them to be taken separately, you can certainly do so.
Thank you. I'll make that request then, Mayor Talon. Let me know if it's okay to still comment, or can we go ahead with my comments, corporate officer, then?
Corporate officer.
Thank you. Just for clarity for the minutes, we have a mover and a seconder of the motion, the way it was stated with the two motions together. So perhaps if Councillor Schweinbenz is agreeable as the second, as the mover, we'll just discuss the second piece there, that it be referred to the Environmental Advisory Committee as a separate motion, and right now discuss the first part of that motion to proceed with the detailed design.
Thank you. Do we need a vote on that then? No? Okay.
Councillor Schweinbenz is indicating correctly that, yes, that's okay by him. It's good, so we'll proceed that way. Councillor Vital.
All right, my comments are related to the second part. So perhaps I should refrain from commenting on the first recommendation until we move on to the second one. Thank you.
Any comments on the A part, which is staff proceed with detailed design of Lillooet West streetscape enhancements at a cost of up to $45,000 to be funded by the Resort Municipality Initiative Grant Fund? Any discussion on that motion? Councillor Schweinbenz.
Sir, just quickly, I haven't been that intimately involved. Have they asked some of the businesses, the commercial pizza place and the full place, have they asked them their opinion and their thoughts on the design? Does anybody know about that?
CEO Cook or Director of Operations, when would public or the neighborhood be consulted on the designs?
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. First, we had just an open house and online feedback. And then as we'd move through detailed design, that's when we'd start engaging with the businesses and neighborhoods just to make sure that the design aligns up with sort of the plan for the vision for their businesses.
Thank you.
Perhaps, Mayor Talon, then we could maybe host an evening with the community, with the neighborhood at least, to show them some of your results and some of your ideas.
Your worship. Oh.
Go ahead, Councillor Fascio.
Sorry, I interrupted Councillor Schweinbenz. I let him finish first, your worship.
You couldn't see me perhaps, but I think Councillor Schweinbenz was just wrapping that up with a suggestion.
Yeah,
that,
now
engagement.
This is this has been on a project that we've been looking forward to getting it up and moving. The money has come forward now for, I believe, through the resort, and I, like Jace has just mentioned, we have carried out the process of public communication plus the online communication, and now we're at the conceptual design. I would like to see this project move forward for our staff now, because if this is going to start in the spring and be finished before the summer, which obviously we would all like to see that, it's going to make a tremendous improvement to the back of that Lillooet, which has been a concern of the businesses for many, many years. So I don't think they will have any objections to what the conceptual designs are. and I'm sure they could come into the office and view these if they wish to, if they wanted to be communicated, but I don't see any reason to have another showing with the businesses. They have that opportunity to come into the office. So again, like Councillor Vidal, I would like to vote on the first portion and then vote on the and then vote on the second portion. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the first part, the A part of the motion, or the A part of the motion, the first recommendation? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Councillor Fascio, I can't see you, so are you in favor? I see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The first part passes. The second part, a motion that Lillooet West Streetscape preliminary design be referred to the Environmental Advisory Committee. Is there a mover to that? Moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on that motion. Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. As this is, at this stage, only a preliminary design, I think a referral at this stage to the committee, Environmental Committee, has the potential to delay the process. The committee's role is to review projects when there are details for them to review and evaluate. I think sending this early design to the committee risks a level of confusion, as comments may not be included in the final design. The committee's input is valuable, but is best provided once a more detailed design is presented to council to ensure their feedback is timely and relevant. So I will be voting against the second recommendation. Mayor Tallon, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I guess I regret withdrawing my motion about 5 minutes ago. And this came up about 15 minutes ago when we talked about the OCP and why the Environmental Committee wanted to have more of a look at it and some of the bylaws that are associated with it. And that is because, things are changing, and we need to look at everything with an environmental lens. And we were asked as a committee a year ago if our opinion about the 4 oaks or maples that had to be removed. We would like an input in this. There's going to be shade trees, green trees. This is an opportunity for us to have rain gardens, perhaps, but to improve the environment of that street. And we meet every month, and we won't delay the process. And I'd appreciate council's support to have us have a look at that. In fact, maybe we can send it to the Advisory Planning Committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. When is the next Environmental Committee meeting? Corporate Officer, do you happen to know?
Thank you. It's scheduled for October 8th.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this part of the motion? Oh, Councillor Fascio, thank you. Councillor Vidal, please, Councillor Fascio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, thank you again to the Environmental Committee for asking for the input on this. But I believe that when the final design comes forward, that at that point, it would be more prudent then if the committee wanted to make some comments on the type of trees or the type of vegetation. As Councillor Vidal just said, this is just a concept. It is not the final design. And I would like to see the final design move forward from this evening onwards, which will get our staff, are being asked to do more and more and more. And I'm of the opinion that we've been dealing with this for quite some time. And the Environmental Committee, I'm not disagreeing with them, but I think we should wait till the final design comes forward to council, which would be, I'm guessing, probably could be the end of October, beginning of November, for us, as Jace has just pointed out, the timelines. And then at that point, if the committee wants to have an emergency meeting, which they can do at the call of the chair, they can review the tree canopies and then report back to council. So I think that should be left for another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Any further comments on the motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion? 2 in favor, opposed? 1, 2, 3 opposed, and the motion fails. Corporate officer, I'm noting the time, and I'd like to see some direction. I recall in our council procedure bylaws, we have an end of our council meetings after 3 hours, which is surprisingly 5 minutes from now. What are our options going forward?
Thank you. Yes. Our procedure bylaw states that our meetings should be adjourned by no later than 8:30, unless council resolves to proceed past that time. So there is that option. Alternatively, you could adjourn and set another time for continuation of the meeting if you so wish.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. I'm trying to judge the energy right now, and I know we've got a few things left, a couple of which are, in my view, a little bit time sensitive. I'd like to put a motion forward that we agree to extend this meeting to 9 o'clock and no later, adjourn no later than 9 o'clock, but give ourselves an extra 30 minutes. So a motion to extend the meeting until 9 p.m. tonight if needed. Seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Fascio. So, knowing we've got a clock ticking, we have 33 minutes. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. We're moving along to item 15C. We have a report from our Community Services Manager regarding evacuation planning grant update.
Community Services Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Village staff have been working with the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Program Coordinator to review existing emergency management plans and evacuation planning documents. The village has existing neighborhood maps and procedures in place through the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Program and Kent Harrison Search and Rescue in the event of an evacuation. The proposed project will include the creation of a public-facing document with evacuation guidance, as well as an evacuation plan toolkit for use by the Emergency Committee and village staff. Earlier in 2025, staff released the village's Emergency Preparedness Resident Resource Guide, and the proposed evacuation planning process will further supplement this work. In the early stages of the project, a community engagement event will be held with representatives from the selected consultant firm to gain feedback from residents and local tourism operators, which will assist in the development of the strategies. Staff currently have templates of the various evacuation notices prepared and ready to issue in the event of an evacuation alert, order, and to rescind the same. Evacuation directions will always vary depending on the emergency, location, and overall risk to community. While the public evacuation plan may have general guidance listed, evacuation details will always be determined in real time, specific to the emergency at hand. A bit more background information. In 2024, the village received successful notification of a Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Public Notification and Evacuation Route Planning Grant through the Union of British Columbia Municipalities. The village was successful in this grant application to receive $22,850 in funding to support the creation of the Public Notification and Evacuation Route Plan. This project was not previously included in the 2025 consulting services budget line. While pursuing consultants to support this project work alongside staff, it was identified that the approved grant funding would not be sufficient to cover anticipated costs. The proposed resolution that will be before council includes projected expenditures up to $27,000, with the difference in grant funding being supported by surplus. Staff have received 2 quotations for the project scope and will be seeking 1 additional quotation as per our purchasing and procurement policy, number 1.08. So the recommendation for you tonight is that staff be authorized to increase the consulting services budget for 2025 by $27,000 to support the public notification and evacuation route planning project to be funded by the approved UBCM grant and surplus.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor
Second.
Vital. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Schweinbens.
Mayor Talon, part of the motion or recommendation is refers to a public art panel. Do you know, do we have or have we ever had a public art panel?
Councillor Schweinbens, I think you're 1 motion ahead of us. This is the emergency evacuation planning and the budget, the additional 27,000 for that.
I guess my mental energy is not quite there. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, I'll call a motion. Call a vote on the motion, the recommendation. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Next item, who is that? Community Services Manager again.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. This report is to provide an update to Council on our proposed reconciliation project with the community of Stehelas. At the July 14th regular Council meeting, the following resolution was passed. That Council directs staff to engage elders incarcerated in Mountain Institution to explore the feasibility of commissioning a piece of artwork created by a Stehelas inmate, and that staff report back to Council with recommendations, including a proposed location and estimated costs. Mayor Talon and Councillor Vital met with Chief Paul of Stehelas and village staff to discuss the opportunity presented by Councillor Vital at the July regular Council meeting. It was determined that there are not any suitable artists available to participate in this project from a restorative justice lens. However, there is still a positive opportunity to highlight Stehelas art within the village. The discussion involved into the idea of a carved pole. A proposed location discussed was the beachfront plaza, and the art installation would have an accompanying plaque that would inform the public of the artist's vision and connections to the history of the land. Chief Paul indicated that he could support village staff with the request for proposals and ensure that local artists are aware of the opportunity to submit a proposal. The village had previously received funding through the Resort Municipality Initiative to support an Indigenous consultation and cultural infrastructure project. At this time, the village would like to issue a RFP with the support of Chief Paul to confirm the anticipated costs before bringing any final decisions back to Council regarding expenditures and available sources of funding. There is a policy consideration, which is Public Art Policy number 1.37, which outlines requirements for acquisition, placement, and maintenance of art that is placed on public lands in the village. This proposed project came forward through a Council resolution and meets the principles of the policy, with the exception of the provision to refer to a public art panel. Given the support of Council and consultation that has already occurred with Stehelas, staff do not feel that a referral to a public art panel is required and are seeking a resolution of Council to waive that requirement. There are 3 recommendations before Council this evening. That staff issue a request for proposals for a carved pole to be raised and installed at the beachfront plaza in consultation with Stehelas, and that staff report back on proposals received and budget information, and that Council waive the requirement in Public Art Policy number 1.37 to refer to a public art panel. Thank you.
So moved, Mayor Talon.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Fascio. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I must say that when Mayor Talon and myself attended the meeting with Chief Paul, it was a very positive and a very productive meeting. A carved pole would serve as a permanent and a visible recognition of Stehelas as the original stewards of Harrison. It aligns with our commitment to reconciliation and to strengthen our relationship with Stehelas. It would also enhance the plaza as a focal point for our residents and visitors and provide a bit of a teaching tool, telling stories of the land, the lake, and the Stehelas people. I'm very much in support of the recommendation, Mayor Talon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this has been a long time coming. This is part of the reconciliation. It's been over 2 years since we've been trying to get together to try and work out what type of artwork was going to be presented to the village, and possibly the plaza was the mention. With Councillor Vidal and myself did have when the new chief came on board, we did have a meeting and discussion to move forward with this. And I'm glad that when you met with him, he came forward with the proposals that he had artists in place. So I fully support this and look forward to the ceremony when this is completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Schweinbens?
Thank you, Mayor Talon, and my apologies to council for a few minutes ago. My attention deficit was definitely kicking in. A couple concerns about this one, and my original question was, do we still have a public art panel? I personally would like to see a public art panel. If we don't have one, then we should strike one. I think this is probably going to be a permanent piece of art in our village, and the public ought to have some say in it. Do we have a panel currently?
CEO Cook or Director, Community Services Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. It's current staff's understanding that a public art panel has not been struck since the policy was adopted, but it was just adopted back in September of 2022. The public art panel would be established to review artwork acquisition and make recommendations to the village staff for the acquisition and placement of art. The way the policy is written is that the public art panel may consist of up to 9 members, consisting of 1 member from the Tourism Harrison Board of Directors, 3 members nominated by the Chamber of Commerce, 4 members nominated by the Kent Harrison Arts Council, and 1 member from Stehelas.
Thank you. I learned something. I did not know that there was all that detail regarding an art panel. Councillor Schweinbens.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Thanks for the information, Christy. Yeah, I think we should strike up a panel. I know this is not the part of the question today, but I think something like this, a permanent piece of art in the village, should go to an art panel. We don't have one. Hopefully, maybe we can strike an art panel to be in time for this proposal. So I would move that we amend this motion and do refer it to some public art panel.
Okay, so Councillor Schweinbens is moving an amendment to the last point on the recommendation, and I guess it would read something to the effect that council require it be referred to the public art panel pursuant to our policy number 1.37. Is there a seconder to that motion? I don't see a seconder to the motion, Councillor Schweinbens, to amend, so that's going to fail.
Well, you've got to try, I guess. But, you know, and I'll have a notice of motion maybe next time, but I do think we ought to strike a public art panel pretty quickly. The other comment that I wanted to make, and I'm in full support of First Nations Stehelas art in the community, and that is a carved pole, aka a totem pole, is not at all part of their cultural identity or art. That is a Haida Gwaii art form for them. They had no connection with poles or totems. I've asked some people here, so maybe we don't need to pigeon ourselves into a carved pole. Perhaps it could be something else. But my understanding is it's not part of their cultural heritage. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion, Councillor Faccio?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. My understanding through being involved with Stehelas for many years is that one of their famous carvers has carried out many pole carvings over many years. So I'm not sure, I'm not disputing what Councillor Schweinberg says. He's obviously done some background work, and I respect that, but I don't think it's new to them. I remember when the lot, which is now has the new building, the Aqua Shores, on the corner of St. Alice there, that there were a couple of trees there, and the request came through from Stahelis at that time if they could have those trees for them to have, for them to carve some poles, totem poles that they had been requested to do, and I believe the trees did actually go to them. So again, I'm not disputing what Councillor Schweinberg says, but it's new to me that they do not carry out the carving of poles, and that was a whole idea for them to do this. And obviously, from your meeting with the chief, that he has suggested that they have artists on standby that would love to do that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, and further with our meeting with Chief Paul that attended with Mayor Tallon and some of our staff members. Chief Paul indicated that one of their Stahelis artists and carvers was going to be commissioned for poles at their new health center on Lougheed Highway. I'm not aware that Stahelis is not involved in carving of poles, and that would certainly be something new to me, and that was certainly not the impression that I got from Chief Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Yeah, I recall from that meeting some enthusiasm from Chief Paul and others from Stahelis that were at the meeting to do something like this. So I think I would leave it to Stahelis to recommend artist or artists that might do something appropriate for the plaza that respects their culture and traditions, and let them speak to that. Any further discussion on this motion? Councillor Jackson.
Just a point of clarification. My understanding that the poles were done by the Haida Gwaii. If you look at museums all over, you go to Ontario Museum, all over, they're there. And many of them are stolen. Some have been repatriated back to the Haida Gwaii, but they were the ones that basically were the real totem. I'm not saying the other groups don't, but they made a fantastic art of it, of doing the poles, and many of them are still standing. Thank you.
Can we call the question, Mayor Tallon, please?
Thank you. Councillor Swinbanks, one last quick
Thank
comment.
you. Yeah, maybe we're pigeonholing ourselves with this carved pole. I'm fine with the art installation of some sort, but I'm just wondering why it has to be a totem pole, which is not part of their cultural and artistic identity. That's all. And I would prefer it went to a public art panel. We have so many wonderful residents who are artists here who would probably love to get some of their art in our waterfront. So not sure if I'm going to support this, but in the future, I'd like to see an art panel. I'd like to see more residential art in our community on the waterfront, in addition to this. Thank you.
I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in favor, opposed? 1 opposed. Motion carries. Communications and community engagement. coordinator. Next item is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. At the June 18, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting, the following motion was passed: that staff report back to council with a feasibility study for a temporary off-leash dog park adjacent to the lacrosse boxes at Spring Park, including costs, and that staff be directed to submit a non-farm use application to the Agricultural Land Commission for the 1-acre parcel along McCombs Drive. The village has explored options for an off-leash dog park since 2015, as first recommended in the village's Aid-Friendly Action Plan and most recently in the Draft Parks and Trail Master Plan. In addition to recent feasibility studies, staff are gathering information on the application process for changes to land designated by the Agricultural Land Commission for future planning regarding the non-farm use application for the 1-acre parcel along McCombs Drive. Staff have conducted a feasibility study for the site adjacent to the lacrosse boxes at Spring Park, including both to the north and south of the boxes. Staff have deemed the site north of the lacrosse boxes as unsuitable due to poor drainage. Staff recommend the installation of a temporary off-leash dog park at Spring Park on the existing horseshoe site, south of the tennis courts nearest Echo Avenue from mid-September until December 2025. The existing horseshoes are at their end of life and would be removed. The trial will provide an opportunity to reassess community interest, gather feedback, and evaluate the suitability of Spring Park as a potential long-term location. The temporary park will include construction-grade fencing, a gate for user access, and signage outlining respectful use. Feedback will be gathered through getintoitharrison.ca. The purpose of the trial is to minimize permanent infrastructure costs while gauging community use, collect data and feedback on operations, maintenance, and neighborhood impacts, inform a future council decision on establishing a permanent location. The cost estimates for the temporary fencing for the trial period is between $2,500 and $3,000, which would be funded through existing budget. And so the recommendations before you today are that council authorize the installation of a temporary off-leash dog park at Spring Park on the existing horseshoe site south of the lacrosse boxes nearest Echo Avenue from mid-September until December 2025, and that staff be directed to collect and report back on community feedback and user experience following the conclusion of the trial period, and that the temporary off-leash dog park be funded through existing budget.
Motion to that effect. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on this. Councillor Pacho.
Thank you, Worship. My original understanding and suggestion was that besides the portion that's been recommended here south of the lacrosse box, that the east side of the lacrosse box was going to be part of that as well. So you could separate the dogs if you wish, but I don't want to give staff any more work than they've already done. They've come forward with a temporary suggestion from us, and let's move forward and see how that works out. But originally I thought that the addition was going to be part of the east side of the lacrosse box, a narrower strip, but that could have been used. But I'm just going to go ahead with the recommendation as outlined by our communications engagement coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pacho. Maybe just a question of clarification. I'm looking at the map and everything's a little bit diagonal, north, south, and east, and then there were drainage issues. The drainage issues, could you clarify where the review, the look into, thought that the drainage issue would be a problem?
Certainly. I will divert this question over perhaps to our Director of Operations.
Director of Operations.
Thank you. From talking to field staff in the area, that area north has some drainage concerns and just being a little wet. So as we're moving into the rainy season here and dogs occupying the area, we found in a lot of other dog parks through research that they really get torn up and ripped up and turned into mud. So we want to kind of just avoid that and go to an area with proper drainage.
Thank you, Director of Operations. Any other comments on the recommendation? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Time is 8:49, and there's nothing on bylaws. We have new business from Councillor Fascio.
Your Worship, with all due respect, considering the time and our brains are getting rattled here, I would like to table this till the next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. We don't need a motion to that effect. We do? We do need a motion to table the new business from Councillor Fascio to the next meeting.
I'll move that.
Councillor Schweinbenz, all in favor? And that carries unanimously. We have new business from Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I'll be quick. Whereas the use of electric scooters, unicycles, and other single occupancy motorized modes of transportation is becoming an increasing safety issue for residents and visitors in Harrison Hot Springs. Therefore, be it resolved, staff be directed to review and report back on the legal framework for the operation of these within the village, including applicable provisions under the BC Motor Vehicle Act and any provincial pilot projects, bylaw options for regulating their use of streets, sidewalks, and public pathways, and safety, liability, and insurance considerations. That is the motion. I'll move the recommendation if it could have a seconder.
Second.
Seconded by, I saw 3 hands all at once. I'm going to go Councillor Jackson on the seconder.
Thank you. Just a couple of brief comments. The use of these e-scooters and other modes of motorized transportation are increasing in the village. In fact, on my way down here tonight, I saw 3 youths on e-unicycles down McCombs Road on their phones, no helmets, not only on our residential streets, but on our highways. This certainly does provide residents and our visitors with sustainable transportation, as was identified in our active transportation plan. However, the unregulated use of these can create a level of risk for pedestrians, cyclists, obstruct sidewalks, and other public spaces. By having staff research and provide recommendations for defining where those devices can operate, defining safety requirements such as helmets, and provide guidance to our bylaw officers. By introducing regulations, we can balance the use of innovative transportation with public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Any further discussion on the motion that's here? I too think it's a good thing for staff to look into and make some recommendations back to us on this. I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion? Oh, and that carries unanimously. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none. 19 on our agenda at 8:53 is question period from members of the public in the gallery who have stayed late tonight with us. Please proceed.
7 minutes.
Since I've been denied the opportunity to participate as a delegate, I must use this question period to ensure that the voices of our community are respectfully recognized. Today, I'm presenting almost 200 letters of opposition that have already been submitted to the housing minister, to the critic of municipal affairs. In addition, I hold a petition signed by over 200 residents who share these same concerns. Together, these letters and signatures reflect a broad and genuine opposition from people who care deeply about this issue and this community. Approximately 2,500 vehicles have used this land as overflow parking between May and September. This demonstrates its current value and importance to the community. By sharing these voices today, I hope to reinforce that this opposition is sincere, constructive, and worthy of careful consideration. I trust that these contributions will be received in the spirit which they were offered as a meaningful part of the democratic process. Our community has spoken clearly, and I urge this council to ensure those voices remain part of the record and generally inform the decisions ahead. My question is, may I approach you, Mayor Tallon, to hand over these letters and petitions?
No.
Of course.
Jean Beretti, by the way.
Yes, of course, Ms. Beretti, please. I'd happy to take those. Thank you for your presentation and for this material. We will add it to the record, and I'll make sure it gets shared with all of council for their consideration as well. Thank you for your time this evening.
Good evening. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. I'm intrigued by the council's commitment to reconciliation. And I find that a bit ironic and contradictory because we have very good records and relationships for many years with Native people in the local area. And this presentation you're talking about for a cultural icon being the totem pole, which is not appropriate to the Fraser Valley, it's strictly a coastal image. You want Chehalis to make one that looks like something that's done up in the Cowichan or Haida Gwaii. But my biggest concern is that while you talk about reconciliation, you're ignoring the 3 bands who have used this area more than Chehalis, and that is Seabird, Chiam, and Port Douglas. Where are they today in reconciliation? Where's the recognition of their time spent in Harrison? Why do you not reach out to all of the natives if you're talking about reconciliation? The pole itself is, to my mind, an insult to the local native history. And it's also, you may get a letter from somebody up the coast saying, you're not allowed to do that. That's misappropriation of our culture. It's not you, and you can't use it. We have here, behind me, Susie Thunder. She cost us $14,000, believe it or not. So if you're looking for native art in Harrison, look at the back wall of Memorial Hall, and that is a welcoming figure, which is appropriate. A totem pole is not appropriate. My question is, why would you do something so inappropriate as a totem pole and ignore real local history? The other one question I have is, there's a mention in the dog park thing about an application to the ALR to use the 1 acre that we own on Macomb Drive, but nothing in the staff report tells me what use you intend to make of that 1 acre. And I wonder why that's not in there. Thank you. Answers will be appreciated. Oh, and by the way, West Lillooet should involve the Advisory Planning Commission. They're the people who are involved in the APC and the town plan. Why aren't they referred to on this one? Thank you.
For land issues.
Thank you for your statement. Regarding reconciliation and respect, part of it is listening to Chehalis and accepting what they say. And I find it a little bit troubling that that wouldn't be acceptable. We have 60 seconds to conclude our meeting.
Dog park. Please
be quick.
kindly consider large dogs versus small dogs and a reasonable time limit of, say, 30 minutes to avoid hogging the dog park. Thank you.
Thank you. We are right at 9 o'clock. I'll seek a motion to adjourn before we.
So moved.
It's moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All in favor of the motion to adjourn while we still can? It's 9 o'clock and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.